some thoughts on that trio.
They should be illegal. There's no reason for us to allow people like that to play in this league. You know, it's all right to have a guy like J.J. who can make a catch on top of the goalpost, but to get Lofton, you know, if you had an erector set, Phil, and you wanted to build a receiver, it would be Lofton. So, you know, what we're going to have to do from a strategy standpoint is make sure we can defensively stop the big plays.
It is virtually impossible to stop that trio of receivers, but there is one way. You've got to stop Lynn Dickey. He had some thoughts on how he'll try and neutralize that Cleveland defense.
Primarily cut down the pass rush. We can go to a quicker rhythm type passing game. We can run shorter patterns, kind of nick at them, nick pick, so to speak. Just try and do anything to keep them out of their nickel situations, avoid the long yardage situation so they can put their 4-down linemen in there, put their track shoes and put their ears back and just come and rush. I think if we save a quicker rhythm type passing game, we can keep them out of the hard rush.
Now you take a look at an absolutely beautiful afternoon here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, when you consider it is the first week of November. There is no rain, there is no snow. It was bright and sunny just 24 hours ago. Not a bad afternoon at all for football here in Milwaukee. The Green Bay Packers will receive the kickoff. And we are just about set to go as Steve Cox will put his foot to the ball, and we are underway here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. It is Huckleby at the 5. Across the 22, out near the 23 where he is down. And the Packers will go from near the 24-yard line. And this is the way the Pack will begin offensively. Dickey, Ellis, and Meade in the backfield. The receivers, we talked about them a few moments ago, the finest in all of pro football. Lofton, Jefferson, and the tight end is Paul Kaufman. The offensive line, Swanky, Drexler, McCarron, Huffman, and Greg Cook. On 1st and 10 from the 24. Sweep to the right side. It is Ellis. Across the 25, out across the 30-yard line. A pickup of 6, maybe 7. Scott Nicholas brings him down with help from Clay Matthews. And as Bob Chandler said a few moments ago at the top of our telecast, we will see an awful lot from that Cleveland Brown linebacking core. The down linemen, Camp, Bob Golick, and Elvis Franks. The linebackers, Banks, Nicholas, Cousineau, Clay Matthews. We'll see a lot of Eddie Johnson, though, in there. And the defensive backs, Perry, Dixon, Burrell, and Whitwell. And you can bet Rod Perry and for Dixon, we'll see an awful lot of that trio of wide receivers. Right up the gut, it is Jesse Clark, the rookie out of Arkansas. He stopped short of the first down near the 31, maybe the 32-yard line.
Phil, I think Lynn Dickey would like to try and establish. Here we see Bart Starr. What Green Bay would like to do offensively is try and get their running game going. We asked Lynn about it earlier and asked him if there was a conscious effort to try and keep their defense off the field. He said no, but it does help if they have long, sustained drives. And so rather than just putting the ball up, they would like to get that running game going.
Dickey over center. That's Meade in motion. Dickey will put it up for the first time today. There's Lofton. And for Dixon, bowls him out of bounds across the midfield stripe.
This is probably one of the toughest things you can do. If Lynn Dickey gets the time and Cleveland doesn't pressure him, here Lofton runs a 25-yard out. What the defensive back is thinking there is the guy has to be going up. So he turns to run up with him. Lofton broke it out right there a couple yards in front of him, and it's a good gain.
So a first down for the Packers at the Cleveland Browns 48-yard line. Right side, Ellis. Bowls ahead to the 40-yard line, brought down by Reggie Camp, the rookie out of Cal. Second down and 3 yards to go. Bob, it has been talked about an awful lot what a second down in short can do for your offensive play calling.
Well, it really keeps those situation substitution people out of there. A team can throw or run, so they really can't bring one or the other in. It helps a lot.
Ellis right side again. They are running at Cleveland's left side. Reggie Camp, Bob Golick running at Chip Banks and Scott Nicholas. That's kind of surprising, running at Banks' corner.
Well, Chip Banks has proven himself to be one of the great linebackers in the game. I don't think that they're probably particularly running at him because they feel he's weak. A lot of teams, Phil, and we'll look at Green Bay as the day goes by, are what you would call right-handed teams. They like to predominantly most of their plays go to the right side.
First and 10 from the 37-yard line. The Packers on the move. Swing pass Ellis. Oh, he is hit and dropped. It is Tom Cousineau, who has led the team in tackles for the last 6 games. A flag down at the 38-yard line. And it'll be nullified. Holding against the Packers.
Tom Cousineau has come on real strong this year. He felt his stay up in the Canadian League set him back a few years. He feels that he's become more of a team player now. He's leading the team in tackles and he's leading the team in sacks. And the players feel that he is
54, decline, second down.
Here we have Jim Tunney giving us the holding call. But the players feel that he has really come on and become a real viable part of that defensive unit this year.
Second down, 16 yards to go from the 41-yard line. Take a second and 14. From the I formation. Now Ellis shifts into the pro set. Dickey. Jefferson. Boy, did he put a move on Rod Perry. Very, very close to the first down.
Well, John Jefferson is that lateral receiver, that guy that runs those tough 15, 20-yard intermediate routes. Here he ran a little out. All he did was kind of lean inside a bit on Rod Perry. Rod Perry is one of the real good defensive backs in the league. What he does is he's shading the inside a little bit, and he just bends it out. Rod Perry slipped a little bit, gave Jefferson the kind of time he needed to make the catch.
Apparently there's some confusion as to where the ball was spotted. Dickey's taking a look. Jim Tunney, the referee, saying, as you can see, Lynn, you're about a half-yard short. Do you still want a measurement?
And even though John Jefferson, Phil, doesn't have that tremendous speed, the kind of speed Lofton does, defensive backs like Rod Perry have to give him the kind of room and respect him because he's so quick. He can turn a little out and up or a hook and go into a 40, 50-yard touchdown.
Now Lofton, Jefferson will check out. Ellis will sit down. The NFC Central Division, the Packers 2 games behind division-leading Minnesota. And Minnesota is at the Dome in Minneapolis today to take on the team dead last there, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Left side, Huckabee. Ball's loose. And the Browns have recovered. And Eddie Johnson almost made a critical mistake. Quentin Burrell comes up with it. Johnson tried to pick the ball up and run with it.
But it looked like here they almost were pushing each other out of the way to try and get to the ball. We'll see the ball pop straight up in the air here. And this is a tough thing. A guy wants to pick it up and advance the ball, but the safest thing is to fall on it and make sure you have possession.
Eddie Johnson trying to push Clarence Scott out of the way. The Browns have the football with 12:28 to play in the first quarter.
Here we're taking a look at the fumble again. Green Bay's offense is the strength of their team, obviously, and this is something that they really have to try and guard against, is their offense making these kind of mistakes and putting their defense in a bad position.
For the Browns with their first look at the ball, it is Paul McDonald at quarterback, and the give, that is Mike Pruitt. He skirts the right side and is knocked out of bounds. Mark Lee, John Anderson, the outside linebacker on that left side, combined to push him out. The Browns offensively, Seif is out. A tired arm, so Sam Rutigliano says. Paul McDonald has taken over. Boyce Green, the rookie, out of Carson Newman, and the veteran Mike Pruitt, the running backs. Receivers, Bobby Jones, Dave Logan, Ozzie Newsome with a bad thumb. On the offensive line, Deacon, Jackson, Thad, Lamalier, and Cody Rison. There's the one-back offense by the Browns. You'll see it a lot today. Pruitt, left side, and the Packers shut it down. It's the nose tackle, Charlie Johnson. No score here at Milwaukee. Let's go to Studio 6A in New York.
Well, as you watch that Packer defense, what about that other poor defense, the San Diego Chargers? Well, here's the first pass against them. Cliff Stout to Abercrombie, takes it all the way down to the 6th, and Abercrombie takes it in on the next play. 7-0. Back to you, Phil.
Yeah, that's a very big game, Lynn Berman, as far as the Cleveland Browns are concerned. The Browns 2 games behind the division-leading Steelers. On 3rd and 8, McDonald's first pass of the game, and it's a nice catch out at the 48-yard line by Bobby Jones. Tim Lewis, the rookie out of Pitt, brings him down.
Bobby Jones has played real well for Cleveland so far this year. He has become their possession type of receiver, and we'll see him here just running a little bit of a short out, makes a fingertip catch, makes a very good catch in that situation.
Paul McDonald on 1st and 10 now from the 47-yard line. That's Pruitt. And he is hit after a gain of 1, maybe 2. Rich Wingo, 4th year out of Alabama, stops him. Now the Green Bay Packers have had problems stopping people, as Bob Chandler pointed out at the top of our telecast. Braggs, Johnson, and Ezra Johnson, the down linemen. The linebackers, Anderson, Wingo, Cumbie, and Mike Douglas. Douglas, a real good one, right outside linebacker. The defensive backs, Lee, Lewis, Gray, and Mark Murphy. To be totally honest about it, I doubt whether that defensive backfield, although it is just an average defensive secondary, will receive any kind of a test from the Cleveland receivers. That's Pruitt. He's across the midfield stripe down to the 47. George Cumbie brings him down. Cumbie, back after arthroscopic surgery on his knee, had a piece of cartilage floating in his knee.
Yeah, it's amazing how fast they're getting guys back out on the field nowadays. You know, 4 or 5 years ago, before they started doing a lot of those arthroscopic surgeries, a player would really miss at least half the season. Now it's a matter of 2 weeks, and 2-3 weeks, and he's back out on the field.
On 3rd down and 4, a nickel defense employed by the Packers, as McDonald will try and put it in the air. That's Newsome, a first down at the Green Bay 32-yard line. John Anderson knocks him out of bounds.
John Anderson, the outside linebacker for Green Bay, is probably their best cover man in a one-on-one situation. Ideally, what we see Paul McDonald dropping back here, what they want to do is get Ozzie Newsome on a linebacker one-on-one, which he had Anderson there. It's an almost impossible task when you're going up against an Ozzie Newsome who is leading the National Football League in reception so far this year. A little push-off by Ozzie there helps him get a couple extra yards.
A first down, Pruitt, the sweep left, now turns it inside, and he is hit and rolled under by Byron Bragg. Now the Green Bay Packers, dead last in the National Football League in total defense, allowing opponents 415 yards a game. Of course, teams that relatively do not pass a lot tend to pass against Green Bay. Opposing quarterbacks have completed 65% of their passes, and McDonald knows it. Boyce Green puts it up in the air. Johnny Gray could not come down with it.
Okay, we got 3.
They're talking about the offenses and defenses. Packer defense against the rush, second. Against the pass, 24th. Overall, dead last. The Browns offense, 10th best in the AFC. 3 wide receivers now for the for the Browns. Logan, Adams, and Bobby Jones. McDonald to put it up. Right over the middle. It is caught by Willis Adams. The ball is loose.
that Green Bay defense has not been able to do this year is come up with a big turnover here. It's actually a well-executed play between McDonald and Willis Adams. Catches him in between the seam of a double coverage there. Takes a good hit, coughs up the ball, and Green Bay's able to come up with it.
Mike Douglas has it. The Packers have the ball with 8:27 to play in the first. Sam Retigliano, Bart Starr. Of course, in the past week, Bart again coming under some pretty heavy fire from the media up around the Green Bay area. Bart says he doesn't have time or the energy right now to worry about job security. He's involved in a struggle with his football team. Packers have lost 3 out of their last 4. Inconsistency has plagued the Pack all year long. To give right up the middle, that's Mike Meade in his second year out of Penn State. Coming into this ball game, Meade has seen very, very little action. 18 carries for a total of 77 yards.
So that Green Bay offensive line has done a pretty credible job this year, and they're led by their center, number 54, Larry McCarron, who's an all-pro performer. We'll see him in this play right here. He has really developed. They say he's very effective. Here we see him going against number 79, Bob Golick, taking him out of the play and creating that hole there. They say he's very effective against the nose tackles.
Second down and 6. Dickey. Little dump pass. That's Ellis. You notice Ellis, rather than run out of bounds, he just put his helmet down and went right into Hanford Dixon's chest. Never understand that in a receiver or a running back. When you know you're going to get hit out of bounds, why not just step out?
Well, usually if you're young, you run into them. After you've been around a few years, you're going to decide to try and save yourself and prolong your career a bit, so you'll step out of bounds. But that half yard, they teach you in high school and college, that half yard is a big deal. Here we see him here.
A first down for Ellis and the Packers. 1st and 10 at the 22-yard line. Lofton split to your left. Dickey going for J.J. He's got it. And Jefferson is out of bounds. Rod Perry on the stop. A big first down out near the 40-yard line. Bob, you said last time when we were having dinner you thought the Packers would go to Jefferson a lot today.
Well, you know, I think Cleveland is going to try and double James Lofton throughout most of the day. That leaves John Jefferson with some occasional single coverage. Here they actually have 2 people over in his area. But the timing between and the way that Dickey and Jefferson are working and getting to know each other, it's difficult to stop the combo when Dickey has the time to throw.
Very good point. First down, the Packers at their own 40-yard line. Downfield. Past the outstretched hands of Philip Epps. Oh, you make so much out of Jefferson, Lofton, and Kaufman, you almost overlook number 85, the second-year guy out of Texas Christian, who, from what Bart Starr says, may have better speed than Jefferson.
Well, they actually went away from him here and gave Rod Perry single coverage on Philip Epps. And Epps is one of the fastest guys in the National Football League. Dickey is so effective because he can read coverages. He has a lot of experience. He saw that and went to Epps in this situation right away. And actually, it would have been a great catch, but it was a catchable ball.
So Epps will take a seat. Jefferson in motion. On 2nd and 10. Lofton, oh, it tips it up in the air, and Hanford Dixon almost came down with it. Neither the Browns nor the Packers defense have a great deal of interceptions. Packers with 5, the Browns only 9 intercepts this year.
Well, this is the way to get a miscue for the Green Bay Packers in their passing game, and that's to put pressure on Dickey, which we're going to see here. He had to step up in the pocket, threw behind. Lofton did a good job just getting a hand on that ball to prevent the interception, and that's really a receiver's secondary responsibility. If he can't get it, don't let anybody else get it.
As Len Berman told you a moment ago, Abercrombie a touchdown. The Steelers over the Chargers 7-0, and Dallas leads the Eagles 7-0 in the first. Flags fly, free down for the Packers. Jefferson! did it for 3 years for Don Coryell and the San Diego Chargers. And he hasn't lost a thing since coming over with the Green Bay Packers.
Well, this is a mark of a veteran quarterback and a veteran wide receiver. It was an offsides. We heard the whistles blow. Lynn Dickey knew he had a free play, so he goes back. Jefferson didn't take anything off his route, came across, make the catch, and they're in a position where they can decline the penalty. It was a no-lose situation for Green Bay, and they carried out the play.
First and 10 now from the 32-yard line. That's Huckabee. Last time he handled the ball, he cuffed it up. This time he holds on and is bowled out of bounds by Chip Banks at the 29. Bob, perhaps we might explain what we're talking about when we're referring to a free down when a flag is thrown.
Well, in that situation, had Green Bay been unsuccessful with whatever they had attempted, they would have had the option to bring it back and accept the penalty, which is a 5-yard penalty, and it would have been 1st and 5. In that situation, they picked up 20-25 yards so they can decline the penalty, take the ball where it is.
But you'd better be awfully sure as a quarterback that that flag is against the defense before you throw the ball up for grabs.
Well, I think he knew it there.
Yeah. 2nd down and 7 to 29. Dickey left, then goes right. That's Speed. And he dives inside the 23, near the 22. Again, Chip Banks on the hit with help from Clinton Burrell. I said to linebacker Mike Douglas before this game, I said, Mike, I don't understand with as much talent as this ball club has how the Packers could be 4 and 5 this year.
Well, it's been a real roller coaster for him. I think Retigliano summed it up, and I think everybody's feelings so far this year after the first half of the season have been that the Green Bay Packers are the most unpredictable team in football. You're never quite sure what team is going to show up on any given Sunday.
Yeah, they come out and have that very emotional 48-47 last-second victory on Monday night football against the world champion Redskins, and then turn around the next week and lose at Lambeau Field to the Vikings 20-17. Dickey on 3rd and short. He's completed it to his tight end, Paul Kaufman. A 1st down at the Browns' 18-yard line. 6:01 to play, first period. Let's go to New York, Studio 6A for this NFL update.
Thank you, Phil Stone. The 0-9 Houston Oilers are at it again. Ken Anderson back in action to Chris Collinsworth. It's already 17-0 Cincinnati. Back to Phil and Bob.
Boy, don't you know Chuck Studley, the new head coach of the Oilers, is tearing his hair out. He's taken over for Eddie Biles. The Oilers have gone 0-3 with Studley at the helm.
I think it's a tough time to catch Cincinnati right now. They seem to be on a bit of an upsurge and kind of getting it together there and playing like people expected them to.
1st and 10 from the 18-yard line. Play action. Jefferson.
Another example of a quarterback and a receiver knowing each other so well. And prediction is trying to cover John Jefferson man-to-man. Just gives him a little step to freeze him for a moment. Lynn Dickey puts the ball right on the money for a touchdown. Jefferson always reminds me of a guy that just absolutely loves to play this game. I can see why after scoring so many touchdowns.
Stenerud, perfect thus far in the point after department. 31 for 31 now as the Packers, with 5 minutes and 19 seconds to play in the opening stanza here at County Stadium, have moved out to a 7-0 lead. Bill Stone with Bob Chandler from a packed County Stadium in Milwaukee. 5 minutes, 19 seconds to play in the first period. And the Packers, on an 18-yard slant from Lynn Dickey to John Jefferson, have taken a 7-0 lead. And it is Eddie Garcia to kick it away. Boyce Green at the 10. And he is stood up at the 24-yard line. Green not seen a whole lot of kickoff return action. There's a look at that drive. 89 yards in just a little over 3 minutes. An 18-yard strike to Jefferson. Boy, that kind of yardage in that little a time, Bob Chandler, resembles a San Diego type of drive.
Well, they're very similar kind of offenses. They can hit you from so many places and strike so fast.
1st and 10. Cleveland at their own 24-yard line. Play action. McDonald. And he'll slide down at the 33-yard line. George Cumbie encourages him to do that. Very close to a first down. I believe he might have gotten it. This telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League. It is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Green Bay Packers and the National Football League is prohibited. They'll stretch out the chains, and it is a first down by more than the length of the football. Now John Jefferson, his 5th touchdown catch of the year. The Packers taking some heat about what they gave up to acquire John Jefferson when back in 1981 they had the opportunity to draft Chris Collinsworth, but instead took the backup tight end Gary Lewis. Pruitt is out of bounds at the 36-yard line. Ezra Johnson with help from George Cumbie. Of course, just to refresh your memory, the Packers picked up John Jefferson, who was unhappy in San Diego, but they gave up a number 1, 2 number 2s, wide receiver Andre Franklin, and they could have had Collinsworth for a single number 2.
I think Jefferson over the years will more than pay dividends.
McDonald on 2nd and 10. Little out pass to his safety valve. Ozzie Newsome. Mark Lee pulls him out of bounds. Newsome came into today's game as the leading receiver in the National Football League with 50 catches.
Green Bay's playing a zone defense here. As Newsome clears each seam of the zone, Paul McDonald catches him right in that seam there. Lee comes up and makes the tackle on it. Newsome is so tough to stop in that situation for those 7, 8, 9-yard intermediate routes.
Now, he's got a very gimpy thumb, and you'll see it bandaged throughout the game. Very, very heavily bandaged. Well, Newsome, though, you talk about a durable tight end. He has not missed a football game since 9th grade. Willis Adams in motion. There's Pruitt through the left side, still on his feet across the midfield, straight to the 49-yard line. This game 7-0 Packers. Let's go to New York for this NFL update.
All right, Phil, here's another 7-0 score for you. The Raiders on the attack. Mark Wilson has time. Nice little lob pass to Frank Hawkins. That's it. 7-0 Raiders over Kansas City. Back to you, Phil.
Now, does that make you happy?
I'm not a Raiders fan. What are you talking about?
McDonald, 1st and 10 from the 49. Pruitt, single back alignment. He is hit and dropped by Mike Douglas. 3 minutes, 40 seconds to play in the first quarter. It is 7-0 Green Bay. Second down and 9. Oh, McDonald. Pruitt falls down. He wanted to go to Pruitt, and now McDonald will go down. Byron Bragg.
McDonald stepped back in the pocket. The Cleveland offensive line actually gave him some time. And we'll see here in the right part of your screen, Dave Logan. He was trying to go to Dave Logan here. Dave Logan has deep coverage and underneath coverage here we see with Mark Lee. There's really nothing he can do. By the time he did come open, McDonald was sacked.
So it is 3rd down and about 19. the 42-yard line. 5 defensive backs for the Packers. That's Logan. Picked off. Mark Lee could not hold on. It will go as an incomplete forward pass, a punting situation for the Browns. And coming on to kick it away will be Jeff Gossett.
Tough situation. The defense is playing short and long. They're covering the receivers with a guy in front of them and a guy behind them. And unless the timing is perfect, Green Bay knew Cleveland had to throw the ball. That makes it very difficult in that situation to try and get it in between those seams.
Philip Epps, the single safety for the Packers. He's 4th in the NFL in punt returns. He is a burner. Gossett sails it at the 15. And Epps has nowhere to go. Out of bounds. Back with you at County Stadium in Milwaukee. It is sold out. A first down for the Green Bay Packers after a 43-yard punt by Cleveland's Jeff Gossett. Jefferson in motion. Ellis has the ball. Bounces off goalie. The flag is down. Ellis goes down at the 18-yard line. Tom Cousineau, Chip Banks combine on the tackle. It's going to be holding, I believe, against the Packers. Jim Tunney, the referee.
Looked like James Lofton was also offside, so I don't know which one they're going to throw at Green Bay.
Illegal motion, number 80, declined. Second down.
That happens so often, Bill. There we see James Lofton, a wide receiver's out at his split position. And it's a running play, and so he's thinking about something else. He's really not as into the game as he would be if it was a pass play. And so he realized right there he made a mistake. You saw him take a little look over at the official begging for some mercy, but he didn't get it.
Second down and 10. Again, there goes JJ. Play action, the give right up the gut. It is Jesse Clark. Sam Retigliano, the Cleveland Browns head coach, is certainly breathing a sigh of relief. Let's listen to Tunney.
Holding 54, half the distance to the goal line, second down.
Yeah, how do you suppose Larry McCarron feels about now?
Well, I know he feels horrible, and like we mentioned a few minutes ago, he's one of the best in the game, and it happens to everybody. I would never say it was intentional. His hand probably got tangled up somehow. But you know, what we saw right there is what Sam Retigliano's biggest fears were, that his linebackers are not playing as dominant a role as he wants them to, and his secondary lacks speed. And with that kind of play taking place, it really shows those two weaknesses become very glaring right there.
Jefferson and Lofton on the same side. Dickey to put it up, and is Jefferson right over the middle, and he caught the ball right in front of Hanford Dixon. It almost appeared as if Jefferson and Dixon got their arms and hands all tied up with one another. For Jefferson, 9 catches now for 96 yards, and we still have more than a minute and a half to play in the opening period. Jefferson in the slot to your extreme left. Lofton at the bottom of your screen. Single coverage with Hanford Dixon. Picked off at the line of scrimmage by the Browns bomb. Goalie, touchdown Browns! week ago, it was offensive left tackle Doug Deacon with a touchdown catch. Today it is Bob Golick, the nose tackle. Len Dickey is hit just as he released the ball, and Golick was there to pick it off.
This is what they wanted to try and do, is put pressure on Dickey. They had 4 defensive linemen in there to try and help that along. They managed to get to him and caught his arm as he was coming forward. Comes an interception, and Golick gets a touchdown. With the guys Cleveland has scoring these days, Bob Golick and Doug Deacon, they're going to have to start making a few uniform changes.
Talking about a 6'2", 260-pound nose tackle and a 6'5", 252-pound left tackle. Matt Barr adds the point after, and we are deadlocked at 7 apiece with 1:19 to play. That holding penalty on Larry McCarron looming large here at County Stadium. Bob Golick, 4th year out of Notre Dame, a guy the New England Patriots gave up on, but as a linebacker.
Yeah, they moved him to nose tackle. He's been injured most of the time this season. They say he's finally trying to get healthy, starting to get healthy, and they expect big things out of Bob Golick.
Huckleby will let it bounce. Has it at the 13-yard line. And Hanford Dixon knocks him down. A good return for Harlan Huckleby. At the 37-yard line, the Packers will put it in play.
When I said they expect big things out of Bob Golick, one thing they don't really count on is touchdowns or receptions. He gets one of both here. I often wondered that. Does that count as a receptions, Bill?
I don't know. At that rate, I'll tell you, he could break into the Browns' top 10 in receiving in about the year 2,900. 1st and 10 from the 37. Play action. Dickey. For J.J. A comeback pattern. Hanford Dixon knocks him down at the 45-yard line. Well, I said at the top of our telecast, Bob, that I felt Hanford Dixon and Rod Perry would see an awful lot of Mr. John Jefferson and James Lofton this afternoon.
Well, like we said, John Jefferson is going to be the guy that gets some single coverage. The problem with doing that is Dickey is pretty adept at reading coverages. He sees that, and so he'll be going to Jefferson a lot this afternoon.
2nd down and 2 from the 44-yard line. Inside handoff. That's Mike B. He is very close to the first down. Scott Nicholas, 2nd year out of Miami, stops him.
Hanford Dixon has been picked on a little bit so far today, and you know, he has been in on the coverage and had his man covered pretty well on every one of the completions against him. The thing that Jefferson and Lofton, any top receiver like those two are, do so well is even when they're covered, they come back to the ball. And with a quarterback getting the kind of time that Dickey's been getting, it's an almost impossible task for a Hanford Dixon or a Rod Perry to come up with breaking up those pass plays.
Bob, do you realize the Green Bay Packers, even without the threat of the great running back in that offensive backfield, still lead the National Football League in offensive efficiency, averaging about 6.5 yards every play? We have reached the end of the first period, and we are deadlocked here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, 7-7. The Cleveland Browns have not lost a game to the Green Bay Packers since 1972, and I believe that was the year the Packers went on to win the NFC Central Division title. Before losing out to the Washington Redskins, 16-3. Well, the Browns have had Green Bay's number. Jesse Clark, a rookie out of Arkansas. Of course, Clark and Meade seeing an awful lot more playing time since Eddie Lee Ivory has decided to take a few weeks off.
Here we're going to see a real good hit by number 31, Al Gross. Comes up and fills right there. It's a good way to break a neck. You know, they teach you what they teach you when you're tackling like that is hard to believe, but to keep your face up. If you put your face into the guy and don't duck your head, then you're never going to hurt your neck or back.
the I formation. Hit right at the line of scrimmage. The first man to him, Scott Nicholas. Huckleby can get nothing. Boy, Pittsburgh, Cliff Stout at the helm, laying it all over the Dan Boutsless Chargers. Eddie Luther starting at quarterback for San Diego. New England over the Bills 7-0 in the second. And Philadelphia leading the Dallas Cowboys 10-0 in the second quarter. The Raiders over the Chiefs 7-0. That game at Arrowhead Stadium. Nothing between the Saints and Cincinnati all over Houston by a bundle. Minnesota leading Tampa Bay 7-0 in the second quarter. You have to wonder when Tampa Bay and Houston are going to win that first game of the year. Jefferson in motion. Quick out pass. Intended for Harlan Huckleby. When you were playing, Bob, didn't you dread going up against teams around mid-season that didn't have a win yet? And you had to know they were going to pick off somebody.
Yeah, somebody's going to be their first victim, and Tampa and Houston are just primed and ready to go. It doesn't look like Houston's going to be able to pull it off today, but you hate to play those kind of teams because you know it's going to happen sooner or later, and you don't want to be the team that they get their first victory against.
Now the Browns almost felt that last week against the Oilers. Dickey on third and a bunch. Out of the backfield roars Jesse Clark. And he is wailed out of bounds. And for Dixon and Lawrence Johnson. Short of the first down. A punting situation for the Pack. It's the first time Green Bay has had to punt today. And we are at 13:30 of the second period. Dino Hall is the lone man back for the Browns at his own 9-yard line. Scribner averaging about 41.5 yards a boot. His longest 70 yards. High snap, but Scribner will unload anyway. Flags are down. As the ball moves into the end zone, a touchback. I think we're going to have the Packers releasing a little too soon. So the clock stops. 13 minutes, 20 seconds to play. And it's going to be against the Browns. Now, as quick as those flags came out, you had to think it was a Packer releasing too soon. Take a look at that. Do you suppose it is Wedding Bell City here in Milwaukee?
I can imagine postponing your honeymoon for a few hours to see a Packer game, can't you?
12 men on Cleveland, 5 yards, makes it a first down.
Phil, the way I look at it, she's always going to be there. The Packers only play here once in a while.
Well, put in that context, I might agree. First and 10, the Packers get the ball back because Cleveland had 12 men on the field. Dickey. For Lofton. Oh, he almost makes a circus grab. Lawrence Jackson right back there with Lofton.
Here, you know, Dickey has uncanny ability to read defenses. Here we do get James Lofton in a man-to-man, a single coverage. He has a little help from the free safety, almost makes a fantastic one-handed catch, which he's done many times. It would be nothing new for James Lofton.
Yeah, Lofton, as you just saw, averaging almost 23 yards every time he catches a football. Jesse Clark. A gain of a couple. 13:06 to play in the first half. Let's go to New York for this NFL update.
All right, Phil, talk about a picture-perfect quarter of football. The first quarter stats, Pittsburgh, San Diego, total yards 128 to just 4 for the Chargers. 17-0 Pittsburgh after a quarter. Back to Milwaukee.
And if that score holds up at Three Rivers Stadium in Pittsburgh, the Chargers will fall to 3-7. An unbelievable situation in San Diego. 3rd down now and 9. Dickey. Perhaps. Flag goes down. I believe we might have a pass interference call. It's against the Cleveland Browns. I thought for a moment as if Epps might get called for pushing off.
It's an unfortunate situation here for Rod Perry because he had him covered pretty well. He bumped into him. It's hard to see in that picture, but he bumped into him, threw Epps off stride just a little bit. The official was right on top of it. Made the call against Rod Perry.
Jefferson splits wide to the left, Lofton wide right. The setbacks Ellis and Clark. That's Jesse Clark. The rookie carries the ball down near the 4-yard line. Scott Nicholas tackles him.
Scott Nicholas is filling in for Dick Ambrose. He's taken over when Dick Ambrose broke his leg. And they are very fortunate to have such a strong quality group of linebackers. Dick Ambrose was a big loss to them, and Nicholas has come in and played real well.
That's the 2nd year in a row the Cleveland Browns have lost their starting linebacker. A year ago was Clay Matthews. Dickey to Kaufman, touchdown, Green Bay.
And a little play-action pass freezes the linebackers and the deep defensive backs. Kaufman ends up running his route on Kusno. We look like we had a little bit of a pick there. Scores a touchdown. That's where Paul Kaufman is so tough inside that 10-yard line. Going to your tight end in those situations, he's a difficult man to try and cover.
Bucky Scribner, the punter, will put it down. Stenerud launches it. And the Packers, with 11:47 remaining in the first half, are out to a 14-6. 11 plays, 63 yards, capped by the 4-yard strike from Lynn Dickey to Paul Kaufman. As Eddie Garcia kicks it away, it'll be Dwight Walker at the 3. Walker moves up near the 20-yard line. He is nailed by the rookie out of Pittsburgh, Timmy Lewis. Eddie Garcia. Coming up next, stay with us for the second half of our NFL doubleheader here on NBC. We'll have the AFC's hottest quarterback, Dan Marino out of Pitt, and the Miami Dolphins against Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers. Coming up next right here on NBC. 1st and 10, Cleveland from their own 20-yard line. Pruitt hit right at the line of scrimmage, falls ahead for a couple. Boy, Rich Wingo and Mike Douglas combined to bring him down. There you see Joe Daniels. He's the man who waves the signals in for the Cleveland Browns. And of course, Joe takes his instructions from the offensive coordinator here in the press box, Larry Weaver. Second and 8. McDonald. Just past the outstretched hands of Bobby Jones. Good coverage. Johnny Gray and Jim Lewis.
You know, Phil, it's interesting how so many teams are sending in plays now with the signals from the sidelines. They've done it to try and conserve time. We'll see Joe Daniels here. He said that it becomes so automatic for him that he forgets that he even does it. He hears it in his earpiece there, gives it into McDonald. McDonald gives it to the team. The reason they've gone to that rather than shuffling in players is because of the time constraints. Trying to get everything done and off and the play going within that 30-second period.
McDonald, as you see, 5 of 8 for Newsom. And it might have been tipped by John Anderson.
I think that was a situation where Ozzie Newsom thought the ball was going to be tipped. He kind of pulled back a little bit on it. We'll see Paul McDonald, all he tries to do here is get it over the head of Anderson. He sees Anderson in his throwing lane, tries to put it over him. And I think Ozzie just thought it didn't look to me like the ball was tipped. It's a catch he could have made. Maybe he was using his one hand because his other is so bandaged up, and he really does have a very, very bad thumb.
Gossett on to attempt his second punt of the afternoon. His first one sailed 43 yards. Philip Epps, the burner for Green Bay, standing at his own 34-yard line. 10 minutes, 53 seconds to play here in the first half. Low punt. And Epps will pick it up and is hit instantly. And then nailed. Curtis Weathers finished him off after an initial hit by Al Gross. So the Packers will have the ball at their own 36-yard line with 10 minutes, 43 seconds to play in the first half. Today's game is brought to you by Chevrolet, official U.S. cars and trucks of the 14th Olympic Winter Games. Chevrolet and you taking charge. By Hager slacks and sport coats that make you look and feel your best. And by Apple Computers. The folks here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, Wisconsin have to be happy with what they have seen thus far in the first half. Their Packers with 2 touchdown passes from Lynn Dickey to John Jefferson. And 1 to Paul Kaufman have put the Packers out to a 14-7 lead. Jesse Clark through the right side, picks up 1, maybe 2. San Diego on the board finally against the Steelers in the second period, 17-3 now. Philadelphia leading Dallas 10-3. John Jefferson, some confusion on the left side of that line. They got 3 seconds to get the play off, and they just make it. Right over the middle, the pass intended for Mike Mead, and he couldn't hold it. The ball thrown behind him. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
WLUK 11 Green Bay.
Stone with Bob Chandler from an overcast County Stadium in Milwaukee. Temperature in the mid-40s, not bad at all. Offside against the Cleveland Browns.
Phil, Green Bay was very lucky there. They tried to shuffle in a play at the last minute with Philip Epps, and they ended up with Kaufman going out. Here we
Holding, 5 yards, penalized to the line of scrimmage on an incomplete pass. 5 yards, first down. Number 29.
And what we got was nobody really knew what was going on. Green Bay didn't really know what they were doing, and we're very lucky to get that penalty from Cleveland.
There you see the Packers offense ranked 5th in the National Football League overall. The Browns defense ranked 8th in the league. Dickey knocked down. Nice bit of defense by Eddie Johnson. Now the Browns have a kind of a unique system. They don't go with just 4 regular linebackers. They have sort of a designated linebacker.
Well, they have such a quality group of linebackers. They feel that they can play Eddie Johnson. They can move him in certain situations. They have 5 guys that they can go with back there in those 4 spots, and they interchange them throughout the day.
2nd down and 10 from the 41-yard line. 9 minutes, 51 seconds to play in the first half. Dickey pumps once and is hit from the back by Clay Matthews just as he was trying to unload it. Boy, I'll tell you, that is Achilles tendon time.
Clay Clay Matthews gives a tremendous individual effort here. He was actually down on the ground and crawled around and grabbed Dickey by the foot here. Dickey can't see him. He has no idea where he is. You can see him on the ground there coming around behind him. Grabs his foot just as he gets ready to throw. That's an easy way to tear a hamstring or tear a knee, especially if your knees are in the condition that Lynn Dickey's are in.
Third down now at 17. The Browns with 5 defensive backs. Dickey. Ball's up in the air. Oh! Gary Ellis really took a pop from Mike Whitwell.
I don't think Gary Ellis wanted any part of that. He sees that there's a lot of traffic, and he's actually running right into the traffic. Lynn probably could have picked a better target here. Ball pops up in the air here. Could have been intercepted, but the defensive backs are pretty intent on making a hit in that situation. They're so used to hitting rather than going for the ball.
Bucky Scribner. That's Dino Hall at the 36. And Hall is rolled down. Mark Murphy on the hit, so the Browns will have the ball in excellent field position at the 36-yard line when we return. 9 minutes, 10 seconds to play in the second quarter here in Milwaukee. The Green Bay Packers have won 5 straight games here at County Stadium. They'll play anywhere from 3 to 5 of their home games here in Milwaukee. Bobby Jones in motion. The pitch is Boyce Green. Tries to cut it back inside, loses his footing, dives ahead for maybe 1. Clock continues to run. We're at the 9-minute mark here in the first half. Boyce Green, there's a fella who not very many weeks ago was wondering if he'd even have a shot at making this ball club. Pittsburgh has added a field goal, is now 17 points ahead of the Chargers in the second period. Atlanta out in front of Plum Phillips Saints 10-0 second quarter. Pruitt and Green, the running backs. Boyce Green, the rookie, has it again and is hit at the line of scrimmage by Mike Douglas in his 6th year out of San Diego State. Boy, last week against the Houston Oilers, Boyce Green, the rookie out of Carson Newman, 239 total yards, a little over 100 rushing, 40 receiving, and I think 91 or 92 yards on kickoff returns. Talk about an all-around running back.
He's been a real surprise for Cleveland, and they're trying to get him in the backfield as much as possible with Pruitt.
On 3rd and long, 3 wide receivers for the Browns. That's Ozzie Newsome. He has a first down at the 48-yard line. John Anderson grabbed him low, and Mark Lee hit him in the face mask.
That's why Newsome has so many catches. You know, you'll see him here. He knows he's going to get hit. It's a matter of catching the ball. Get a receiver, a good one, would rather be carried off the field after having made the catch than after having dropped it, because they're going to hit you anyway, whether you catch it or drop it.
Well, Ozzie needs only 9 catches now to move him into second place on the Browns all-time list ahead of Greg Pruitt. He only needs 17 more to break Gary Collins' mark of 331 career catches. All right, Frank Ryan to Gary Collins. What a combination that was. Here's Mike Pruitt across the midfield stripe to the 48-yard line. Clock continues to run. 6:53 to play first half.
You know, on top of everything else, Ozzie Newsome is playing with, as we mentioned earlier, a very, very sore thumb. I think he dislocated his thumb. He wears a little splint on it. For a receiver, that's a tough thing to do. It takes a lot of your concentration away. You start catching the ball more in your body rather than using your hands, and I'm sure he would want to use his hands whenever possible. You can see just a little bit of the tape, the tremendous amount of tape he has on that thumb to kind of mobilize it.
2nd and 7 from the 48 as McDonald wants to put it up, and Mike Douglas is in his face. Douglas, 6 foot, 214 pounds. rather light for a linebacker, but
Bill,
the agility of a deer.
Sure is. And getting back to Newsome one more time, one of the most difficult things when you have a hand that's damaged is blocking. That's what Sam Ratigliano was worried about earlier today when we talked to him, is that Newsome won't have the leverage that he needs. As you see him here struggling a bit, when you can't put your hands up in there, it's very difficult to get that leverage.
3rd and 15 now. All the time in the world. Dave Logan. It is picked off by Tim Lewis, the rookie. Expect great things of Tim Lewis. His first interception as a pro, an extremely quick defensive back out of pit country. 5'11", 191 pounds.
Here we'll see it again, Phil, and this is nothing more than a bad throw by Paul McDonald. He throws right into the teeth of the zone. Logan is pretty well covered. He throws the ball high. It's tipped. Lewis picks it off. We're going to see, coming into your picture here, Deacon will make the tackle, and Deacon's doing a little bit of everything these days for the Cleveland Browns.
A big, costly turnover, perhaps, for the Cleveland Browns. The give. It is Gary Ellis. And he is hit at the 20-yard line. Clay Matthews on the tackle. Clock continues to run. 5 minutes, 32 seconds remaining in the first half. Boy, Gary Ellis, another one of those all-purpose backs in the National Football League, sort of a new brand of running back in the past couple of years. Boy, very rarely do you see the Earl Campbells, Franco Harrises, George Rogers. They've given way to the Marcus Allens, the Kurt Warners, and the Gary Ellises. There's Mike Meade. He is to the 9-yard line, a fumble. And the Packers have covered it.
It's always an interesting time down there in the bottom of those pile-ups. Guys are usually the strong arm guys are trying everything they can to wrestle the ball away from somebody else until they slowly start unpiling. It's probably one of the most dangerous areas too. Guys get hurt down in those pile-ups when everybody's going for a loose ball.
A first down for the Packers at the 12-yard line of the Cleveland Browns. There's Ellis, and he is swarmed under at the 9. Elvis Franks with help from Eddie Johnson. Now the Green Bay Packers, with their 2 touchdowns today, have now rung up 32 on the year. But they have given up now 34 with the one the Browns have. Last year, through 9 games, the Packers defense had given up only 19 touchdowns. Landicki right over the middle, touchdown! Gary Lewis.
Exemplifies the problem of trying to cover this Packer offense as a defensive unit. They have so many weapons, you can only double so many guys. Gary Lewis in this situation runs free. Landicki picks him up. The linebacker gets a little bit held up. It's tough to stay on him in a linebacking situation like that.
Stenerud on to try and make it a 21-7 Packer lead, and he's got it. Perfect. Stenerud thus far on the year, 33 out of 33 point afters.
We'll take a look at the touchdown again here. Gary Lewis just gives Eddie Johnson a little bit of a move, loses him, and he's into the end zone for the touchdown.
Eddie Garcia set to tee it up and kick it away to the Cleveland Browns. Eddie's Packers have just taken a 21-7 lead. Garcia, the last time these two teams met in the preseason at Lambeau Field, booted the longest field goal in Packer history, 58 yards, only to see Matt Barr come back and win it for the Browns with the last-second field goal. Here's Boyce Green, fumbles it at the 3, bounces right back up to him. He's on his way out to the 17-yard line before the Packers shut him down. Robert Brown on the hit.
You know, one of the toughest things for any team is there we see Brian Sipe is deciding who the quarterback's going to be. We've said that Brian Sipe, they've said all week that he's had a sore arm, so they're resting him. There's always been that change, or the threat of a change with that Cleveland offense between Brian Sipe and Paul McDonald. That's very difficult. I think you've seen some of the teams come on this year, like the Rams, for instance, and pick a quarterback and say, this is our guy, to give him that confidence he needs.
Certainly Kansas City, symbolic of that very thing. For years, they had the quarterback controversy between Kenny and Steve Fuller. McDonald puts it up. It's up in the air and batted down, an incomplete forward pass. Byron Braggs dived for it, could not come up with it.
You know, Phil, it's a nice problem to have when you have two quality quarterbacks like that, but what your team loses is a little bit of continuity. And to be able to rely and get to know one quarterback, and the team feels very comfortable. Here we'll see Paul McDonald. Now this ball is almost picked off again. It's hit straight up in the air, which really would have put Cleveland in a horrible position.
Byron Bragg's got that big mid up in the air. He's 6'4", 270. 2nd and 10, McDonald to Pruitt, and he overthrows Pruitt at the 22-yard line. Right on Mike's heels was George Cumbie.
You know what's interesting is Paul McDonald is a left-handed quarterback. Brian Sipe is a right-handed quarterback. And that's a real adjustment for receivers to have to make. That ball comes in very differently. We're seeing the ball tail away from a lot of receivers today, that the ball that Paul is throwing. And that's because a left-handed ball actually does tail away from a receiver. The point of that ball is coming at you in a different direction than a right-handed quarterback. It's something that receivers really have to get accustomed to and adjust to.
Paul McDonald, 6 of 13 for 66 yards and an interception. Downfield, it is caught by Bobby Jones, and he is out of bounds at the 45-yard line. The official says he was not out of bounds. Continue to run the clock. 3 minutes 24-23 to play on the first half.
Well, Paul sets this one in there real good. It's right between the zone. Green Bay's playing a lot of zone coverage today. Bobby Jones runs that little corner route in between the deep and the short man as well as anybody. And it's a matter of Paul McDonald being able to throw it over the underneath coverage and get it in front of the deep coverage.
1st and 10, Browns, with 2 minutes and 56 seconds to play in the first half. That's Boyce Green, and he struggles for a couple, maybe 3. Bob, when you don't have the great deep threat, as the Browns do not, what does that do to an opposing defense? Does it make their job a little easier?
Well, it sure does. It takes fear out of their planning for that game. When a defense is planning and preparing to play a team that has a Lofton or a Cliff Branch, or somebody that can go down the middle, it changes their whole defensive scheme. They can't do some of the things that they would be allowed to do normally.
McDonald to Pruitt. He's got it and hit immediately by John Anderson.
That's one of the big concerns that Sam Rutigliano has, is that he feels they don't have that deep threat, that vertical receiver, the guy that can really stretch the zone to enable his tight end and his flanker, which you would call a lateral receiver, to be able to work into those areas.
The 2-minute warning is here. We'll be back to County Stadium in just a moment.
To endure, to adapt, to overcome. The Xerox 1075 Marathon Copier. Designed to be versatile with a choice of 20 configurations. Engineered with the intelligence of 6 personal computers to perform at peak levels at all times. And built to endure. The 1075, one of the Marathon copiers from Xerox. Official sponsor of the 1984 Summer Olympics.
Someday soon, you could very well have the best of everything. But you will have to begin somewhere. And the best place to begin is with the very best beer in the world. The best tasting beer wherever you go. When you think about it, why would you ever have anything else?
Come to think of it, I'll have a Heineken.
Bill Stone with Bob Chandler back with you in Milwaukee, where the Green Bay Packers have moved out to a 21-7 lead. Do you suppose the Browns are going to change anything offensively in the final couple of minutes here in the first half, Bob?
Well, they're in pretty good field position, Phil, and I don't know if they'll go to their 2-minute offense or not, but that's usually a pretty effective way down here within 2 minutes left in the half to get the ball moving, to conserve your time, to conserve your timeouts. They may not quite feel threatened enough time-wise yet to go into that, but we'll see.
The Browns with 3 wide receivers now. Boyce Green, the lone running back, and he's got the ball on a sweep left. He turns the corner, stays in bounds. Ooh, he is hit hard at the 35-yard line. Estes Hood, 6th year out of Illinois State, moves up to stop him. Clock continues to run.
And here we do see their 2-minute offense. By 2-minute offense, we mean they don't huddle. They'll call 2 or 3 plays in a huddle. The guys will remember him, or he'll audibilize like Paul McDonald is doing right here. He'll call the play right at the line of scrimmage.
McDonald still on his feet and then is swarmed under. Ezra Johnson. Credit the Packers defensive secondary with covering Bobby Jones, Dave Logan, and Willis Adams very, very well. And again, when you don't have a wide receiver who can run away from those guys, it makes it a lot easier for a defensive unit. 1:28 to play. We'll be back.
There are a lot of ways to find a high in life without using drugs and alcohol. For David Logan of the Cleveland Browns, that personal high comes when he faces...
The preceding announcement was furnished as a public service by Dave Logan and the National Football League. 1:28 to play here in the first half. Paul McDonald has already put the ball in the air 15 times, has completed 8 of them for 101 yards, no touchdown, 1 interception. The Browns overloading the right side now as McDonald wants to put it up again. And he was only looking at one man the entire route, and that is the rookie out of the backfield, Boyce Green. Bob, are you surprised the Browns are trying to move the ball through the airways against the Packers? I mean, after all, Green Bay is next to last defensively against the rush.
Even though that seems to be Green Bay's Achilles heel, a team can't change its basic personality, and Cleveland's is to put the ball up in the air.
And the man they usually go to is the guy who has it right there, Dave Logan at the 9-yard line. 54 seconds, and the clock stops. McDonald will trot to the sideline to talk things over with Joe Daniels. There's Sam Retigliano on the left, Brian Sipe in the upper left-hand corner. New England leading the Buffalo Bills 14-0 in their first meeting. New England shut out the Bills 31-0. So Buffalo really having trouble against the Patriots. Philadelphia has been tied by the Cowboys. It was once 10-0 Eagles. It is now deadlocked 10-all in the second period. Atlanta leading the Saints 10-7. That one was 10-0 at one point, Atlanta. It is halftime. Cincinnati all over the Houston Oilers, 34-zip. Tampa Bay only 2 behind Minnesota at the half, and a victory there by the Buccaneers would do the Packers a whole lot of good in the NFC Central. We'll have all the scores, highlights for you coming up next on NFL 83. Len Berman in a cast of thousands. Studio 6A in New York. It is first and goal from the Cleveland 8.5-yard line. 55 seconds to play in the first half. The Browns trailing 21-7. McDonald. And it is batted down by John Anderson. That's the second ball Anderson has got a hand on today. The last one resulted in the interception by Timmy Lewis.
offensive lineman's job here, as we see Paul McDonald go back, is to try and keep the hands down of those linebackers and defensive linemen. Robert Jackson was on Anderson right there. Couldn't get to him enough to keep his hands down.
Second down and 10, 52 seconds to play. Newsome caught at the 2-yard line and down. The clock continues to run. 43-42. It'll be third down and goal now from the 2-yard line. Browns don't seem to be in any particular hurry at all. And now they'll stop the clock.
See Ozzie Newsome on a one-on-one situation on John Anderson here, which is an impossible task for a linebacker on Newsome. The ball is thrown away. McDonald does a good job throwing away from Anderson, and Newsome makes a good grab.
For Newsome, his third catch of the day, he has amassed 41 yards. McDonald's numbers, 11 of 19, 134 yards. He has yet to find the end zone. He has already found Tim Lewis of the Packers.
I've mentioned several times about a linebacker, an outside linebacker like Anderson, having to cover an Ozzie Newsome down inside the 20-yard line, which is so tough. And one of the ways that they try and remedy that and make it easier for Anderson is to put him up in Newsome's face and hit him and jam him at the line of scrimmage. When he breaks away clean, as he did on that last pass reception, then it's a real mismatch. But if he can get into him and jam him at the line of scrimmage and keep him there, then it enables him to throw the timing between the quarterback and the tight end off, and it makes his job much easier.
Wholesale changes now by both squads. The goal line defense coming in for the guys in green and gold.
Now this is a great situation. What we see here in all these substitutions is what we call the situation substitution. Green Bay is bringing in their run-oriented people. This would be a great opportunity for Cleveland to play action pass.
That's Pruitt, and oh, he's stacked up short. Fourth down now and 2, and Matt Barr trots onto the field. Clock is stopped, 25 seconds. As they unpile, the clock continues to wind. Now McDonald is the holder. He is certainly capable of picking up and throwing for one. And look out, he'll try here. And he throws it away. The Packers have held.
It wasn't planned. It was a bad snap. McDonald couldn't get a handle on it. It was low. Barr didn't have a chance. It threw his timing off. He didn't have a chance to get his leg through. McDonald tried to improvise. In that kind of a situation, all he can do is yell fire. If whether people hear him or not, they're supposed to react and try and help him out. Here we see it here. The ball never really got down. He got it down a little bit late, so Paul picked it up. And that's what you call a fire situation. There should be a couple of tight end. Both tight ends should be trying to get open. McDonald can't find anybody. Tries to dump it off to Barr, who gets thrown around.
Yeah, that'll wind it down as the Packers are content to run it into the line of scrimmage. The first half is history here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. And it is 3 touchdown passes by Len Dickey, 1 to John Jefferson, 1 to Paul Kaufman, and 1 to Gary Lewis. Let's go to New York. To begin the second half of play, it is 21-7. The Packers lead it. And Eddie Garcia will unload for the Packers. It's a good one. Boyce Green awaits the kick at the 7-yard line. He's got it. And he moves it out across the 25, and that is where the Browns' offensive unit will begin. And at quarterback, it is Paul McDonald. With Brian Sipe out with what amounts to an elbow problem, chronic elbow problem, really, the only quarterback left for the Browns would be Rick Tricano, third year out of Pitt. Logan and Bobby Jones split to the top of your screen. Play action. McDonald up to Newsome. It is intercepted and dropped. Mark Murphy, third year out of West Liberty, Had it and couldn't hold on.
Sam Rutigliano wants to go downfield. We talked about that earlier. He wants to put that threat and stretch that zone downfield. He tries to do it with his tight end, Ozzie Newsome here. The ball's a little underthrown. Mark Murphy tries to make a fingertip catch, and actually the ground knocks the ball out from his grasp. They ruled they didn't have possession long enough to count it as an interception.
Now the Packers had an identical situation in the first half. Mark Lee had the ball, and when he hit the ground, he cuffed it up. Logan in motion on 2nd and 10 from the 25. Tipped at the line of scrimmage. Ball falls harmlessly to the 42-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 10. Now, a week ago at home against the Houston Oilers, the Cleveland Browns and the Oilers went into the locker room at halftime tied, and Sam Rutigliano delivered what a lot of fellows on that Browns unit say was his most fiery speech they can remember, chiding his team not to be the Oilers' first victim of 1983. And against a much better ball club, these Green Bay Packers, I hope his speech had a little bit more fire in it today.
Well, he's a very passive coach, Bill. You know, he believes in being consistent rather than the peaks and the valleys, and he's taken some heat for his passive and kind of good-natured attitude that he has.
3rd and 10, McDonald now has to scramble out. Newsome cannot get past number 59, John Anderson. Now Newsome gave it everything he had, but Anderson was on him like flypaper. Ezra Johnson, the man who pressured McDonald out of the pocket. So Jeff Gossett will come on to kick it away for Cleveland. Philip Epps at his own 30-yard line. So the Packers should have superb field position on their first possession here in the second half.
Cleveland's punt coverage team is the worst in the National Football League statistically, and Philip Epps is one of the most dangerous runners. So we were expecting to see something out of him today on this team.
Gossett unloads a good one at the 37-yard line. Epps breaks it to the outside. And Epps, who averages 12.5 yards per return, has a good one here. At the 48-yard line of the Cleveland Browns, that is where the Packers offense will begin. It'll be Dickie, Ellis, and Meade, the backfield. The receivers, Jefferson, Lofton, and Kaufman, the tight end. The offensive line, Swanky, Drexler, McCarron, Huffman, and Greg Cook. First and 10. Lofton and Jefferson on the same side of the field, the bottom of your screen. The pitch is to the right side. That's Ellis. And he'll be carried out of bounds, hit initially by Lawrence Johnson. Now Brian Sipe, tired arm and all, is throwing the football. I was going to ask you at the outset of this telecast, do you believe the Browns' remarks that Sipe has a sore arm?
Well, I'm sure that he does have a sore arm. It was, in my way of thinking, convenient as far as timing goes that Paul McDonald was getting ready to go to the USFL and threatening to sign with them. But they, you know, Paul McDonald has played before and he's proven to be a quality quarterback. And Brian was struggling for a couple weeks, so it wasn't that rare a thing and that odd a change.
Kaufman in motion on 2nd down and 12. Dickey to put it in the air. And Kaufman cannot hold it. He's bumped by hand for Dixon. I don't see that happen very often.
Yeah, Paul Kaufman didn't make all pro by dropping too many of those passes, and you won't see him do that too often. A lot of times when you're looking at a quality receiver, the reason they drop a ball is it's a very easy catch. It's right in his stomach, in that area where he wasn't sure whether to catch it in his stomach or in his chest or catch it with his hands. And as you could see him, he kind of got handcuffed there and the ball bounced off his chest.
3rd down and 12. Philip Epps is now checked into the ball game. That's Jefferson. He's got it. And for Dixon, right there on top of J.J. He just simply came back and used his superior athletic ability to snatch that ball away from that man right there.
Well, the one thing Cleveland's been trying to do, and the only way to remedy and fight against this strong passing attack by Green Bay, is to get at Dickey. They stunted a linebacker. They brought everybody they could. Dickey threw what wasn't a great pass, but Jefferson came back to the ball and made the catch.
A flag down on the play. It will be against the Browns, I believe. Or will it?
Defense penalized to the line of scrimmage. Number 57, 5 yards, first down.
A first down for the Packers at the 45-yard line. 13 minutes, 20 seconds to play. Jefferson in motion. Reverse. Here comes Lofton. Now, the way that play was designed, Bob Chandler, I have to believe John Jefferson gave that play away.
Yeah, we'll see James Lofton. This is originally called a reverse, but he adds a couple reverses to this run. He sees that he didn't fool anybody. So now it's a matter of trying to not only save his own neck, but not lose. He starts to think about going back the other way, reverses a third time, and ends up losing 5 or 6 yards.
Credit the Packers with staying at home and pursuing well. On 2nd and 14, Dickey. That's Clark. Clark meets Lawrence Johnson head on. Eddie Johnson also down, getting up slowly.
That looks like Clinton Burrell down on the field.
It is certainly Clinton Burrell, not Lawrence Johnson. Jesse Clark took Burrell on helmet to helmet, and it is Burrell who comes out on the short end, getting up slowly. 12:17 to play in the 3rd period. Now, that man not particularly pleased with the proceedings here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. Sam Rutigliano's Browns with 12:17 to play in the 3rd period on the short end of a 21-7 score. The Green Bay Packers, and the Browns coming into this ball game 2 games behind the division-leading Steelers. Pittsburgh winning big early on in the 3rd quarter against the Chargers at Three River Stadium. The Browns on the verge of falling 3 games behind Pittsburgh. Flags are down. It will be against the Packers. Kaufman had the ball, but illegal procedure against Green Bay. Here's a look at those standings we were talking about. Pittsburgh came in 2 games in front of Cleveland. If the scores hold, Pittsburgh would go to 7-3, the Browns to 5-5. Cincinnati way out in front of the Oilers. It was 24-0 at halftime. Will most certainly go to 4-6, while Houston will get into double figures in the loss column.
That makes it a long season for Houston. I went through a couple of those seasons myself in Buffalo, and about this time of the year when the snow starts to fall, you start thinking about Christmas.
3rd down and 9 now from the 44-yard line. Epps, Lofton, Jefferson, the wide out. And it will be against the Packers again. Illegal procedure. Dave Drexler, the left guard, pulling a bit too soon. You never know by the look on Bart Starr's face that his ball club has a 21-7 lead.
Well, Phil, you know, I think he's under a tremendous amount of pressure here. Bart Starr has been here for 9 years, but this is what's considered, and it's been written up in the paper this week as a real important pivotal game for Bart Starr and the Green Bay Packers and his continuation as coach here. So a good, strong performance has to be an uplifting thing for him this afternoon.
Dickey on third and a bundle. Unloads. Epps. Picked off. Quentin Burrell. The man who went head-on with Gary Ellis 3 plays ago back in the ball game, apparently all right. Had no trouble seeing that football.
What do you want to do, Jody? What do you want to do?
Well, you won't see Lynn Dickey throwing into the double coverage too often. Here he does, and Philip Epps doesn't manage to get a hand on it to prevent the interception. Burrell makes a very, very good play. After coming back from that hit in the head, it's tough to get oriented and do that kind of job out there.
Paul McDonald's days are over, at least for this afternoon. It appears as if he has an injured right thumb. Brian Sipes, sore arm and all, has come on here in the second half with 11:45 to play in the third period.
Well, they said they would only use Brian Sipes if it was an emergency, and I think that Coach Vitigliano feels that this is now at the state of emergency, and he's brought in Brian Sipes.
That's Pruitt in the flats. He's got it. Underthrows the coverage. Oh, still on his feet. First down and a whole bunch more to the 43-yard line and out of bounds. Johnny Gray on the stop.
Well, this is kind of Brian Sipes' time to get accustomed and to get the feel of things out here. So he picks an easy target, throws out into the flat to Pruitt. Doesn't try to force the ball downfield yet. Pruitt gets a real good individual effort here and breaks a couple tackles, picks up an extra 5 or 6 yards.
Well, he ran right into Mark Lee, and the 188-pound cornerback, 5'11", could not hold Pruitt. A first down at the 44-yard line. Here's Pruitt again. Look at that second effort. A pickup of very close to 10 yards on the carry.
Right. You can see here Brian's happy to be back in the game. He's one of those kind of players that just hates to stand on the sidelines, sore arm and all. It's been very difficult for him to sit out there on the sidelines and watch him play. He's the kind of guy that would rather go out there and not say anything about that sore arm. That's why Vitigliano said he had to make the change 2 weeks ago when he brought McDonald in. He said Brian wouldn't come to me and tell me his arm hurt, so he had to make the change. Brian told me last night that he's feeling a lot better. He probably wouldn't play today unless it was necessary. So apparently, because of Paul McDonald's thumb and the situation, they felt it was necessary to give him a shot.
McDonald, a jammed right thumb, the diagnosis. He will not return today. Well, Sipe busted play. He'll have to run for his life. And it is number 59, John Anderson, who grabs him around the shoestrings and rolls them out of bounds. A pickup of 3. Clock stops, 10:59 to play in the third period. Now, the Cleveland Browns' fortunes of 1983 certainly dealt a severe setback in the preseason game against the Buffalo Bills when Charles White went out.
Charles White was coming into his own as a running back. He was that explosive runner that they really wanted back there along with Pruitt. And to lose him really does take a toll on any offense, and especially the Cleveland Browns offense.
Boyce Green, Mike Pruitt, the setbacks on 2nd down and 8. Sipe pumps once, unloads, and he is hit. It is Mike Douglas, his 2nd sack of the day, the 3rd for the Packers.
Mike Douglas has played so well this year, and that's how both these teams are going to try and put pressure on the quarterback, is by bringing one of those linebackers. And Brian Sipe is used to those kind of shots, so he'll get right up and act like it never happened.
The Packers thus far this year have given up an average of 30 points a game. Just a year ago, Green Bay had the 5th best scoring defense in all of pro football. What a difference a year has made for that defensive unit. 3rd down and 8. That's Newsom in motion. Sipe wants to go to Ozzie and overthrows him. So with 10:52 to play in the third period, it is 21-7 here in Milwaukee. Let's go to New York for this update.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Big play moments ago in Kansas City. The Chiefs trailing the Raiders 7-6. Third quarter, Bill Kenny hits Carlos Carson. Is he charging for the lead touchdown? No, he's fumbled, and Ted Watts recovers for the Raiders. Big turnaround. Back to you.
Well, not only are the Los Angeles Raiders a darn good football team, they are a lucky football team. Would you go along with that, Bob?
Phil, that's not luck. They teach guys to come up with those kind of turnovers.
They must. Jeff Gossett to kick it away. Good snap, all the time in the world to unload. And he sends a beauty for the sidelines. And I think he might have found it. Or did he? Nope, touchback. The Packers will have the ball at the 20-yard line when we return to County Stadium in Milwaukee.
We're going to see punter Jeff Gossett here showing his displeasure with the call. He couldn't quite believe they called it out into the end zone. He's hoping for it, right? And there we see him. He doesn't get the call he was looking for.
A touchback. The Packers have the ball at the 20-yard line. They own a 21-7 lead. Out near the 22. Scores as they are coming into us here at NBC. Pittsburgh stepping it out over San Diego now, 23-3. The non-existent offense by the Chargers. New England still leading Buffalo 14-0 in the third. Dallas out in front of Philadelphia for the first time in a long time, 13-10 in the third. The Raiders over KC, as Len Berman just showed you, 7-6 in the third. And New Orleans has taken a 14-10 lead over the Falcons. At one point, Atlanta led that one 10-0. That's Clark, tries to skirt the right side. Ooh, he is hit low and dropped at about the line of scrimmage. It'll be third down and maybe 7. Chip Banks, a good stop. The Cincinnati Bengals, very, very ineffective offensively early on in the 1983 campaign, laying it on the Oilers 41-0. Tampa Bay out in front of Minnesota 14-9. Wait till they announce that score here in Milwaukee. A Packer victory coupled with a Minnesota loss this afternoon would bring Green Bay to within 1 game of the lead in the AFC Central, and they take on the Vikings a week from today. 50's pass right over the middle, intended for Jesse Clark. Incomplete. Tom Cousineau. He did catch it. An interception by Tom Cousineau. But the ball fell to the ground. It is Cousineau with the intercept. So the Browns with a big turnover. Dallas now out in front of Philadelphia 20-10. New England has added a touchdown, 21-0 now over Buffalo.
Well, this is a golden opportunity for Cleveland. They said coming into the game that there's really no way to stop Green Bay's offense, so you have to score more points than Green Bay. Sam Bertigliano said that at least 31 points were needed to win this football game today. Looks like he may be proven right, but Cleveland's got to start getting something on the board.
Now that is the second interception by the Browns today. Their 11th this year. Play action. Sipe rolls right. Now comes back to Newsom. The screen set up well. And he advances the ball down to the 14-yard line before the nose tackle. Charles Johnson shuts it off.
It's a little tight end screen where they fake a sweep to the strong side, and what Ozzie Newsom actually does is fall down, make it look like he's down on the ground. Then he gets up and comes around and picks up the screen. We're going to take a look at the interception again here. Tom Cousineau is around the ball so much this year. We've seen so many tipped and batted balls. He picks it up before it hits the ground right off of the receiver.
Second down and 1 now from the 14. Sipe unloads, intercepted. A a big, big interception down near the 5-yard line. And the Packers have turned it around. The ball is coming way back, though. Hold everything. Ball is coming back to the 8-yard line.
Well, there were some whistles on the play as Brian Sipe went back to throw. His receiver, Ozzie Newsome, fell down.
Now the call is Lewis stepped out of bounds at the 8-yard line. So the Pack has the ball back at their own 8-yard line with 8:26 to play in the 3rd period.
Here we'll see Tim Lewis step out of bounds right here, which brought it back for the Packers and put it on the 7-8-yard line.
At the 8-yard line, Lofton splits wide right. Jefferson to the bottom of your screen. On 1st and 10, the give through the right side. That is Gary Ellis, hit right at the line of scrimmage by Bob Golick. He could not hold him. Scott Nicholas moves in to stop him. A big, big gain, though, to about the 17-yard line, a pickup of 9. Maybe 10. They'll stop the clock, move the chains out for a measurement.
Now they're running right here over Larry McCarron. They're all pro center, who's so effective and been so effective throughout this afternoon also. Breaks a couple of tackles.
Of course, Gary Lewis, Mike Meade seeing an awful lot of duty because Eddie Lee Ivory is out of action for the Packers. Bob, how much does Green Bay miss Eddie Lee Ivory?
Well, he was their real big threat. He was leading the team in rushing. He's been a great back over the years here in Green Bay, and so you miss him tremendously. He's having some emotional problems. He's feeling the pressure in certain situations, so he's decided that it was best for the team and himself to take 4 weeks off. And it's a great job, but there are a lot of pressures that go along with it, and I can completely understand the young man's feelings.
Yeah, we certainly wish Eddie Lee Ivory all the success in the world in dealing with his problems. That's Jesse Clark, the rookie out of Arkansas. Tom Cousineau shuts it down.
You know, they say, Phil, that it's an easy job playing wide receiver when they're running the ball. And when you're outside on a running play, sometimes you take worse shots than when you're catching the ball. Here we're going to see James Lofton against Hanford Dixon. They're not too fond of each other right now because Hanford Dixon called him a crybaby in the paper. Lofton, I'm sure, read that. So they kind of go at each other a little bit, jockeying for position throughout the afternoon.
Well, they're up against each other here again at the bottom of your screen. Dixon and Lofton. That's Meade in motion. Ellis has the football, cuts it inside, breaks it out near the 27-yard line. Again, it is Scott Nicholas with help from Cousineau. Clock continues to run here in the 3rd period. 7 minutes, 4 seconds to play. 21-7, Green Bay over the Browns.
I was talking with Larry McCarron last night. His nickname, it just came on the board here, is Rock. And his teeth, apparently, Joe DeLamalura and Larry McCarron are real good friends. And he said his teeth were very crooked. So he had 8 teeth pulled and had braces put on. And so what he did with his 8 teeth was he sent them to Joe D in Cleveland.
Third down, less than a yard from the 27-yard line. Dickey will take it himself in an unusual call. Clock stops for the measurement. Now, if the Packers can hold on and win this ball game, and if Tampa Bay is able to defeat the Vikings, whom they lead at this moment up in Minnesota, boy, that would set up quite a showdown a week from today at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. The Vikings would come in just 1 game in front of the Pack. A first down for Green Bay at the 28-yard line. Pick it up well. Lofton.
Well, James Lofton got a little bit of retribution against Hanford Dixon here. And Hanford said in the paper he probably wouldn't catch a pass on him. Well, this is one too many. What happened was Cleveland came with a blitz. They brought Clinton Burrell. Lynn Dickey picked it up. He saw it, and Lofton is the guy to go to in that situation. He's got man-on-man coverage with Hanford Dixon, which is a tough job for any defensive back, regardless of his ability.
I'm surprised, excuse me, Bob, that the Browns are blitzing with their lack of talent at the corners. Dickey, complete to Philip Epps at the 18-yard line.
Well, Phil, you know, it's a matter of they have to make something happen now, and that's exactly what they're trying to do. They know they can't sit back and let Dickey do his thing, and so they'll go ahead and expose some of their weaknesses and take some chances by bringing a safety or a linebacker to try and put some pressure on Dickey.
Lynn Dickey, 18 of 28, 216 yards and 3 touchdowns thus far today. There's a draw play. That's Jesse Clark on his feet inside the 8 down to the 6-yard line. Tom Cousineau shuts it off. Help from strong safety Clinton Burrell. And again, Jim Tunney will stop the clock and bring on the chain gang.
A lot of teams get inside the 20-yard line, and they bring in 2 tight ends and another running back in that short yardage offense. What's really nice about the way Green Bay does it is they keep their wide receivers in, which keeps the threat of a pass. And that was the reason that draw worked so effectively, because the defense has to respect the fact that they can throw the ball.
It's about 10 inches shy of a first down. It'll be second down and about 10 inches. Now, if the Cleveland Browns lose this ball game, they will fall to 5-5. The Steelers, well out in front of the Chargers, would move to 7, make that 8-2. Be a very, very difficult task for the Browns to overhaul the Steelers by the end of the 16-game season. By the way, Lynn Dickey, with those 3 touchdown passes thus far in the ball game, now has 21. He is only 3 touchdown passes behind Cecil Isbell, who in 1943 tossed 24 for the Packers. Ellis hit once, hit twice, and is finally down at the 2.
Ellis just sheds Clinton Burrell here and picks up an extra 5 yards. He should have actually been thrown for a 2 or 3 yard loss. Cousineau missed him also. That's just great individual effort.
First down, goal to go at the 2-yard line. 3 minutes, 24 seconds to play in the 3rd period. The setbacks, Gary Ellis and the rookie, Jesse Clark. Play action, Ellis, touchdown Packers.
Down there, 1st and 3. Cleveland put all their run-oriented people, like we had mentioned before, in the ball game, suspecting that Green Bay is going to run the ball. It's a great time for a play-action pass, and Dickey pulls it off.
Stenerud to attempt his 4th point after today, and he sends the rocket through. So for the 4th time this afternoon, the Green Bay Packers have struck, and it has come on the arm of this man, Lynn Dickey.
We'll take a look at it again here. Just a nice play-action pass that throws the linebackers and the defensive backs. Allows Ellis to get out in the flat.
Try for point successful. Penalized 5 yards on the kickoff. 96.
A penalty against the Browns holding. The point after is good. The Browns will be penalized on the kickoff when we come back. Packers took the ball at their own 8-yard line, went 92 yards in just over 5 minutes, and they are out now to a 28-7 lead. That's Boyce Green. And he is finally wrestled out of bounds at the 20-yard line. Cliff Lewis rolls him out. So the Browns need a rush. And so do the Eagles. They are behind the Cowboys now 20-13. Philadelphia led the entire first half. Tampa Bay at the Metrodome in Minneapolis stepping it out now over the Vikings 17-9, fourth quarter. Ryan Sipe on in relief of Paul McDonald. Unloads. That's Logan. He's got the ball out across the 40 near the 43. Tim Lewis is there, as is Johnny Gray and Mike Douglas.
Logan has been so effective in these situations this year. He's a big, tall receiver at 6'6". Lewis slipped down, fell down, gave Logan a little bit of room to make that catch.
Willis Adams, Bobby Jones, the wideouts. Underthrowing the coverage is Sipe. Pruitt has it. He deked Mark Lee. Gains another few yards out of bounds at the 46. John Anderson. Boy, I remember a game, Bob Chandler, back, I believe it was 1964 or 65 between these two ball clubs. Boy, it was a real Donnybrook.
Well, Pruitt puts a move right here on Mark Lee. Mark, I think, was getting ready to try and make the tackle. Almost broke his leg.
So Pruitt is out of bounds. His fourth catch of the day. A first down for Cleveland at the 46-yard line. Draw play. Pruitt into the Packers secondary, still on his feet to the 32-yard line. A big first down for Cleveland. Well, you go back to 65. It was the NFC Championship game. I think there was 3 or 4 inches of snow at Lambeau Field. Jim Taylor, Paul Hornung combined for a couple of 100 yards. Bart Starr, I remember, hit Gary Collins with a TD pass. Names out of the past. Frank Ryan, Carroll Dale, guys by the name of Willie Wood. Kansas City out in front of the Raiders 13-7. Third quarter at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, and New Orleans, after falling behind Atlanta 10-0, has scored the last 20 points in that one. There's Pruitt, left side. Down to the 27-yard line. Now, we talked early on in the third period about Cleveland throwing the ball so doggone much, not running the ball against a defense that is 27th in the league against the rush. And now the Browns are going to the run.
Well, it's kind of like they're trying to catch him off guard, if you can possibly do that in this situation. Green Bay's expecting them to throw the ball, and so they're trying to mix it up and keep the ball on the ground as much as possible. 2nd and 4. That's Logan. And Logan came to the inside. A flag goes down. That may be against Logan. Well, he shoved a couple of guys out of his way. And one of them was the rookie who already has an interception today, Timmy Lewis. And it is against Logan. Down on the right side of your screen, we'll see there Dave Logan shoved off on Tim Lewis. They had an option route there. He's going to the post. Sipe reads it. He can either go to the post or the corner. Sipe threw back to the corner. We'll listen to Jim Cunningham.
Offensive pass interference, number 85, 10 yards, still 2nd down.
Like I said, they had an option there. They couldn't work it out. Tim Lewis had good coverage, forced Logan inside, didn't allow him to get back out, so Logan pushed off.
Now, Sipe has been intercepted once. McDonald was intercepted once in the first half. On 2nd and 15. Sipe puts it up. Ozzie Newsome has it and rolls out of bounds at the 15-yard line. Now the official said he did not get both feet inbound. A good call. John Anderson, Mark Murphy running step for step with Ozzie.
Bill, it's a good catch by Ozzie, but he's good enough to be able to keep his feet in this situation. keeping your feet in bounds is just as important as making the catch. You'll see him here. He has time to drag both feet. And he ends up having one foot, half of his foot out, and the catch is no good. And it was a situation where Ozzie should have been able to drag both those feet and get a fair catch.
51 seconds to play here in the third period. County Stadium in Milwaukee. Green Bay 28, Cleveland 7. The Packers with 5 defensive backs now, trying to stop the Browns from getting the big first down play on 3rd and 14. That's Logan. And he tries to take on everybody and cannot get through the pack. Mark Lee, John Anderson, and Anderson very, very slow getting up.
Green Bay's in a kind of a zone prevent here, and what Logan does is runs a delay route. He just gets up into the face of the defensive back, waits for the underneath coverage to clear, and then comes in on what you call a delay. We're going to see Mark Lee come in and try and strip the ball away here, which guys are being taught more and more to do that. When one guy's making the tackle and other guy's trying to strip the ball, that's a reason for a lot of turnovers and fumbles this year.
Anderson will go out. Cliff Lewis is now into the linebacking core of the Packers. It is now Douglas, Lewis, Cumbie, and Wingo. On 4th down and 4 at the 26.5-yard line. The Packers have no choice. Pardon me, the Browns have no choice but to go. Willis Adams wide right. Logan, Bobby Jones wide to the left with Willis Adams in the slot. Big play for Cleveland. Ozzie Newsome, the intended receiver. Good coverage by Cliff Lewis. Yeah, this is what Sam Ratigliano saw just a split second ago while that play was developing. Not much emotion at all.
Well, they said he's pretty passive, and I mean, I'm sure they're churning inside on that, Phil.
I don't know a team in the National Football League, Bob, that has more respect or a love for their head coach than the Browns do for Sam Ratigliano. And you often hear about a certain man, a player's coach, a player's manager. I think that phrase certainly fits Sam Ratigliano.
Absolutely.
1st and 10, Green Bay play action. Pump once. Dickey unloads for JJ, and it's out of bounds. Clock stops with 7 seconds to play in the 3rd quarter. Dickey 19 of 30 now for 218 yards and 4 touchdowns.
They're trying to hit Jefferson in a corner down here, but they set it up by faking a screen to Lofton, a short wide receiver screen. Draws the coverage up so that Jefferson can get behind him and try and get that little corner route.
I don't think you can overstate the importance of carrying out a good fake. You see so many players just kind of go through the motions, don't really carry it out well.
So many things happen away from the ball that are important to help set things up, not only for that play, but for later plays.
Jefferson comes in motion, right over the middle. That's Jefferson with the ball, and he's still on his feet. Whitwell tried to put a body block into Jefferson, and he wasn't going to take it. That's the end of the 3rd period. At the end of 3, the score, Green Bay 7-28, Cleveland 7. We'll be right back after these messages from your local station. Today's game is brought to you by Chrysler Plymouth, quality products from the new Chrysler technology. By American Airlines, doing what we do best. And by Michelob Light, an exceptional light beer with a rich, smooth taste. County Stadium in Milwaukee, Phil Stone with Bob Chandler as we are winding down the final 15 minutes of play here. And it has been all Green Bay. More specifically, all Lynn Dickey, with help from a supporting cast of John Jefferson, Paul Kaufman, Gary Lewis, and Gary Ellis. Jesse Clark. He's hammered by Bob Golick, the nose tackle. Bob Golick trying to get the job done defensively for the Cleveland Browns. It has really been a defensive line, Bob Chandler, that has simply not put a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. As you look at that graphic, only publicly owned team in the National Football League. About 1,000 to 1,200 stockholders in and around the Green Bay, Wisconsin area. Fumble. And Dickey falls right on top of it. Reggie Camp falls right on top of Dickey.
You know, Lynn Dickey, Phil, this offense reminds me a lot of San Diego's offense. Dickey is in the same kind of position Dan Fouts is in. There's a tremendous amount of pressure put on him week in and week out. This team relies on Lynn Dickey so heavily to come out here and perform and have these great kind of games, because without that offense scoring points, at least so far this season, they have been totally ineffective.
Good point. 3rd down and 17 now from the 30-yard line. Dickey. Screen pass, and it is the rookie, Jesse Clark. He cannot hold on. Only had 6 catches coming into this ball game. He has 3 this afternoon for a total of 21 yards. So a punting situation now for Bucky Scribner and the Green Bay Packers. 4th down and 17. The last time the Green Bay Packers and the Cleveland Browns met here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, the Packers really laid it on the Browns, 55-7. That's still the largest margin of defeat in the Browns' history. Dino Hall, a fair catch at the 31-yard line. Not particularly good hang time, about 3.5 seconds. So the clock stops. 13:27 to play in this ball game. The Browns have a long way to go. Coming up next here on NBC, except those of you folks here in the Milwaukee area, it's the Miami Dolphins and Dan Marino against Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers. From Candlestick Park in the Bay Area, that should be a classic ball game. Here at County Stadium in Milwaukee, it is 28-7 in favor of the Green Bay Packers. Brian Sipe. Oh, Logan wide open. Tim Lewis fell down as Logan made his cut. Johnny Gray moves in to bring him down.
Phil, I think we're going to start seeing a little bit of the Packers playing what you'd call a bend but don't break kind of defense. They're going to start giving Cleveland some of the underneath stuff, some of the intermediate yardage like Dave Logan picks up here, but trying to prevent the big play, the home run play that could get him back into the ball game with a couple of quick strikes.
And realistically, it's a part of the game the Browns literally don't have. They don't have the big strike offense. Bobby Jones in motion to the top. Sipe. Downfield. White Walker bobbles it. And George Cumby followed suit. The ball falls out of bounds. An incomplete pass. 2nd down and 10 now from the 47.
This was a catchable ball. You know, Brian Sipe has been throwing a little bit high. There we see Paul McDonald putting an ice pack on his injured right thumb. Brian Sipe has been throwing a little bit high this afternoon. You know, he's throwing off his back foot. He's not stepping up into the pocket. You could see him there. He was leaning back. It was a catchable ball, but it was still thrown a little bit behind and high and almost intercepted.
Logan has gone out. Willis Adams, Rocky Belt, the wide receiver. On 2nd and 10. And as Ozzie Newsome is hit hard at the 25. Tim Lewis is there to hit Newsome. Boy, Tim Lewis has certainly impressed me today, Bob Chandler. Rookie out of Pitt.
He's done an excellent job. Here we're going to see Ozzie Newsome again, and you know, I marvel every time I see a wide receiver or a tight end like Ozzie Newsome make a catch when he knows he's going to get a shot. He knows he's going to get hit hard here. Concentrates on that ball long enough to secure it away, put it away, and make the catch before he gets hit.
Newsome with a half a dozen receptions. Down to the 20-yard line goes Mike Pruitt. Newsom now only needs 6 more catches to move him past Greg Pruitt into second place on the Browns' all-time receiving list. Second down, call it 5 from the 20-yard line. Logan is back in. Bobby Jones the other wide out. Sipe double pump. Jones! Bobby Jones got behind Mark Lee, and the Browns are on the board for the first time since midway through the first quarter.
That was an excellent job by Brian Sipe. As you mentioned, as you were calling the play, Phil, he pump faked, and that's so important for a quarterback to do that, to get the eyes of those defensive backs moving in one direction. It opens up a lot of things for him, and that's what it did there for Bobby Jones on the corner.
For Bobby Jones, his 4th touchdown reception of the year. The point after by Matt Barr is good, and with 11 minutes 13 seconds to play in this ball game, the Browns are within 2 touchdowns of the Green Bay Packers. Brian Sipe directs the Cleveland Browns in 5 plays. They cover 69 yards in a little over 2 minutes. A 20-yard pass to Bobby Jones, and Cleveland is now within a couple of touchdowns of the Packers. That's Huckleby at the goal line, and his impetus carries him into the end zone, or does it? The official says no. And it'll be interesting to take another look at that, because if the impetus of the ball forces you into the end zone, it should be a touchback. Let's take a look at Harlan Huckleby. He got no sympathy from Jim Tunney. Take a look here. He's backing up. The impetus of the ball.
It sure looked to me, Phil, like the impetus of the ball carried him into the end zone.
I would agree. I would agree 100%.
Really wasn't much he could do.
But the official, who was 5 yards from Harlan Huckleby, ruled he stepped in on his own volition. So the Pack from their own 8-yard line. Clark, the rookie, across the 15 out near the 17. He is hammered there by Tom Cousineau.
That's a big play for Green Bay. It really gives some running room. You know, it's an area and a time when momentum can almost start changing after Cleveland gets a big score. And for them to have that unfortunate kickoff situation and then be able to come up with a big running play and get some running room, now if they have to, they can open up their offense.
Clark is Green Bay's 2nd leading rusher today. Gary Ellis, the leading rusher, with 39 yards. Clark with 28. That's Ellis out across the 20 near the 22, and some extracurricular activity going on. Cousineau not particularly fond of number 61, David Drexler. Clock continues to run. We are at an even 10 minutes to play in this ball game. Green Bay, a touchdown in the first period, got 2 more in the second, added 1 in the third. Took a 21-7 lead. But the Browns struck with a 20-yard touchdown pass from Sipe to Bobby Jones just moments ago. It is 28-14 now. 169. Dickey on 2nd and 8. And he will go down in a heat. Clay Matthews and Bob Golick back there.
This is what Cleveland has not been able to do most of the afternoon, and that's what they felt they had to do coming into the ball game, and that was to get to Lynn Dickey.
That's only the 2nd time in this ball game that the Browns have gotten to Dickey. They only had 12 sacks coming into this game. Dead last in the NFL. No pass rush at all. goes Clark around the left side. And he outruns both Bob Cousineau and Clay Matthews before Mike Whitwell runs him out of town. Clock stops, 9:01 to play. The Packers thus far in this ball game, Bob, have run off 10 more offensive plays than have the Cleveland Browns. Green Bay's total yardage 310. The Browns only 20 yards behind that. Dino Hall at his own 35-yard line on 4th down and 4 from the 25. End over end, should be a decent return here for Hall. And he is jammed at the 39-yard line. The Packers cover well. Jesse Clark on the stop. Scribner a decent punt. The Browns will have the ball in good field position when we return. Here in Milwaukee, it is Green Bay 28, the Browns 14. And like the Raiders in Kansas City, we have experienced a quarterback change here in the second half. Pittsburgh all over San Diego, 26-3 New England, leading Buffalo still 21-0 in the fourth. Mark Wilson started for the Raiders today against Kansas City. Now it is Jim Plunkett, as you heard Len Berman say. Here it was Paul McDonald who began the game for Cleveland, and it is Brian Sipe. Pruitt. On the dump pass out to the 37-yard line. Mike Jolly, with help from Mike Douglas, bring him down. 8 minutes, 35 seconds to play in this ball game. Other scores: Dallas leading the Eagles 20-13 in the fourth. There's the score Lenny Berman just brought you up to date on. The Raiders over Kansas City 14-13, and New Orleans all over Atlanta 27-10 after the Falcons took a 10-0 lead in the first period. Second down and 11. Sipe. Almost picked off. Flag goes down. Interference against Mike Jolly. Willis Adams knew it all along.
Defense, first down. Number 21.
It is against Mike Jolly, the third-year defensive back out of Michigan. Watch the lower right of your picture right here.
You know, the only question here was whether Willis Adams could have actually caught that football. It was thrown high. He started to almost trip, it looked like. Got tangled up by his own feet. Tough call against Mike Jolly.
I think maybe Jolly's feet might have had something to do with that.
Well, I know you think that happens a lot, but
Well, being a wide receiver, you never found that to be true with defensive backs trying to go at you. I mean, they can't push you or shove you. It's too obvious.
Bill, the problem I had was I was never in front of them so they could trip me. I was always running into their feet, coming up the back of them.
There you see Sipe talking to Joe Daniels as they try and put a game plan together in the final 8 minutes and 12 seconds that will somehow result in a couple of touchdowns. Cleveland needs them bad. The New Orleans Saints, the first final of the day, defeating the Atlanta Falcons 27-10. I'll tell you, the Saints go to 6-4. San Francisco is 6-3, and that game coming up next year on NBC, the 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. Cincinnati laying it all over Chuck Studley's Oilers, 48-7. Pete Johnson, who rushed for over 100 yards last week against the Packers, you can be sure is over the century mark again today. Here at County Stadium, the situation is this. Browns down by 14. 8 minutes, 12 seconds to play. Draw play. Pruitt dives to the 30-yard line. A pickup of 6 yards on the play. It'll make it second down and 4. Mike Douglas on the tackle.
So we heard the crowd a couple of minutes ago chanting for DED, and they're calling for their defense, and you have to give Green Bay's defense some credit today. They've done an outstanding job up against a pretty good offensive team, the Cleveland Browns.
Second down and 4. Sipe. Newsome wide open at the 19-yard line and out of bounds. Clock stops. 7:36 remaining on the clock. A first down for the Browns.
Cleveland's kind of putting it all together here. That offensive line. Reese and Joe DeLamalore, Mike Babb, Robert Jackson, and Doug Deacon. They're giving Brian Sipe, as we see here, the time to throw. And he picks up Ozzie Newsom for a big first down.
Now the crowd here coming to life, exhorting the Packer defense to hold them. Something the Packers have had a difficult time doing all year long. Dead last in the league in defense. They'll have to try and put it together here. Flags down in the offensive backfield. It will be holding against the Browns. Tigliano, his ball club, has amassed 308 yards thus far today.
Holding, 75, 10 yards, still first down.
Bill Kuntz, the rookie out of Penn State, whistled for a holding.
You know, Phil, as we sit here and we hear the crowd cheering for this defense, you know, for those defensive players, you can feel the chill go up their spine. You know, it's like an offensive team scoring a touchdown. You know, this is where they get their adrenaline flowing when the crowd gets behind them in this defensive situation.
Ryan Sipe. End zone. Dave Logan was wide open, 5 yards deep in the end zone, and Sipe did not see him in time, and he knows it.
Well, we could see a little bit of frustration on Dave Logan's face and with his gestures there. But it's tough. Brian Sipe has been out 2 weeks. He hasn't practiced much. He just started throwing again this week, and it's amazing how fast a veteran quarterback can get rusty after not working with the team for 2 or 3 weeks.
Second down and 20. The ball at the 27-yard line. 7 minutes, 24 seconds to play in the game here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. It's the Packers 28, the Browns 14. Don't forget, stay tuned. The 49ers and the Dolphins coming up next year on NBC. Sipe. And he is wrestled down out of bounds. Mike Douglas on the hit. So it'll be third down and long here when we come back. Right now, let's go to NFL 83.
Okay, Phil, wild one going in Kansas City. Bill Kenny from the shotgun. Wide open is Ken Thomas, the rookie. He's got it. Kansas City regains the lead over the Raiders. Back to you, Phil.
I remember a game early on this year when Kansas City seemed to have a sure victory over the Raiders in their grasp and lost it. I believe it was the final play or final couple of plays of the ball game.
That was when they had a field goal. They had a chance for a field goal with 3 seconds. The Raiders ended up winning that game 21-20.
7 minutes, 14 seconds to play. Third down and 20 now. Draw play, that's Pruitt. And he'll be stopped way short.
A lot of people would wonder why you would run a draw there on 3rd and long, but you know, there's a lot of people, the teams have been doing that more and more this year on obvious passing situations. They're running the ball. And the feeling on that is they believe that a lot of the tackling skills by teams are eroding, that they're being more pass conscious, that they're bringing in smaller, quicker, pass defense-oriented people, and then it's not a bad situation on 3rd and long to go ahead and run the ball.
Now the play of the game for the Browns right here. 6:31 to play. It is 4th down and 12. Adams, the intended receiver, he went up, and Mark Lee was right with him step for step.
Well, it's an excellent defensive coverage by Mark Lee. Brian Sipe throws a very good ball here. Willis Adams has a chance for the catch. Mark Lee makes the defensive play, which is a tough thing to do. It's a razor's edge down there. If he's too soon, it's pass interference. If he's too late, it's a touchdown.
Jesse Clark out across the 25 near the 26. Clay Matthews on the tackle with help from Keith Baldwin, the right defensive end. Clock continues to turn here. 6:08, 6:07 remaining in the game. Now the Browns will need a turnover very quickly here. They need 2 touchdowns. Don't forget, coming up as soon as this one is complete, Miami and San Francisco from Candlestick Park. Second down, about 2.5. Gary Ellis. He's got first down yardage, I do believe. Eddie Johnson is in there. Baldwin is there again. Gigliano is saying, could we catch an earlier flight out? 5:31 to play. We pause briefly for station identification. This is the NBC Television Network.
WLUK 11 Green Bay.
Bill Stone with Bob Chandler. County Stadium in Milwaukee. The Packers 4 touchdown passes from Lynn Dickey, and that has certainly made the difference. 28-14 Green Bay.
Phil, not much is said throughout the day about that offensive line or offensive linemen in general. But you got to give Green Bay's offensive line of Greg Cook, Tim Huffman, Larry McCarron, David Drexler, and Carl Swanke some real credit, because they've given Lynn Dickey the kind of time he needed to be able to throw 4 touchdowns today.
Yeah, that's certainly true, Bob Chandler. The Pack has protected Dickey well. The Browns only getting to Dickey twice today. That's Ellis. Across the right side, following Huffman and Greg Cook. Bob Golick finally puts it into it all. A pickup of 2 yards on the play. Second down and 8 now.
I wonder if Cleveland will change their thinking about rather playing here than at Lambeau Field, where they felt going into Lambeau Field, you not only have to deal with the Packers, but the great traditions and the mystique of the great Packer teams over the years. They felt they had a better chance coming to Milwaukee and playing at County Stadium here.
There is no question but that exists at Lambeau Field. That's Meade. And he is hit hard by Eddie Johnson. Certainly another place where that tradition comes into play, Bob, on the college ranks, and you played there at Notre Dame. You walk down that tunnel at Notre Dame, ghosts almost come out of the bricks.
That was probably the scariest moment of my life. I was a junior when we went back to South Bend. I was playing for USC at the time, and you walk on it, and the stands and the people are so close to the field that you feel like you're in a little bottle, and everybody is just really zeroing in on you. It was a frightening feeling.
It is much the same way at Lambeau. Lynn Dickey on 3rd and 7 unloads. Oh, it is almost picked off by Chip Banks. If he'd have held on, he had a touchdown.
Well, Phil, that would have definitely tightened up this game. Cleveland would have been right in it. Chip Banks makes an excellent defensive play. Catchable ball, no one was between he and the goal line for a score on that one. He knows it, as you can see him right there.
Bucky Scribner, high snap. He gets it away. Pretty decent punt. Dino Hall, a fair catch at the 31-yard line, and it was a wise choice with Estes Hood bearing down on him. So the Browns will have the ball and begin 69 yards away from where they need to get. 3 minutes, 31 seconds to play in this game. The Packers with a 2-touchdown lead.
I think we'll either see them probably call 2 or 3 plays in the huddle and go into their 2-minute offense, they call it, where there is no huddle, to try and conserve time and timeouts. They'll either do that or they'll audibilize. Brian Seif will audibilize and call his plays right at the line of scrimmage.
3 minutes, minutes, 31 seconds to play. Sight has no choice but to put it up. That's White Walker. He dives to the 40-yard line. Mike Douglas almost had him by the helmet, but he came down, ducked the tackle, and dove ahead for a couple of more. Here's the hurry-up offense you spoke of, Bob Chandler. 2nd down and 1 now from the 41-yard line. Draw play. That's Walker again, and oh, does he find running room all the way to the 45-yard line of the Packers. George Cumbie and John Anderson combined to stop him. Now with Pittsburgh winning big over San Diego today, this is the situation. The Steelers would go to 8-2. A loss for the Browns today would drop them to 5-4. Make that 5-5. Make that 5-5. That graphic was incorrect. If they lose, they will go to 5-5.
Phil, Green Bay is playing what you'd call a real prevent defense here. They're only rushing 3 men. They're dropping back 8 back into coverage. It's allowing Sipe time, and if he picks out the right guy, he's being successful. It's also a good time to run the ball as he's doing here.
White. Walker through the left side, picks up a 1st down. The clock continues to run. It will stop now. It is the 2-minute warning. And now here comes another one of those fantastic finishes. Score here, 28-14, Green Bay. Bob Chandler, with just 2 minutes to go in this ball game, the Cleveland Browns down by 14 points. You would have to think that a loss here would severely cripple Cleveland's chances of any playoff hopes here in 1983.
Absolutely. This puts them, what, 3 games behind Pittsburgh after today, and Pittsburgh is going strong. I don't think they're going to falter too much. And here we see the Raiders. The Raiders coming back 21-20 in the 4th quarter. That looks like the kind of game whichever team ends up with the ball last is going to win it.
That was the identical score of their first meeting, I believe.
That's always been a trademark of the Raiders, consistency. Same score, same game.
Now talk about close ball games. 41 of the Browns' last 66 games have been decided in the final 2 minutes. That is an incredible statistic. Well, they call this team the Cardiac Kids. Sipe on 1st and 10 unloads. Willis Adams. He is overthrown. Tim Lewis almost had his 2nd interception of the day. That's probably not a bad call, putting Willis Adams at 6'2" up against Tim Lewis at 5'11" and trying to let Adams out-jump him.
No, it's not a bad shot. You're either going to get a completion, an incompletion, pass interference. A couple of the things that can happen are good. Here what happens, Sipe puts it up, gives Adams a chance, and he mistimes his jump a little bit. He didn't actually get up into the defensive back enough before he started to go up for the ball.
Tim Lewis already with 2 interceptions. One of McDonald, one of Sipe today. Ryan underthrows the linebackers. That's White Walker. Jim Laughlin, backup linebacker out of Ohio State, finally downs Walker, close to 1st down yardage. Jim Toney wants the clock stopped, and they're going to bring the chains on, so the Browns will get, in essence, a free timeout here.
Well, Green Bay is playing that kind of defense where they say, we're going to go ahead and give you those intermediate routes, and we're going to let you score as long as you take 1 minute and 42 seconds to score. They don't want to give up anything quick here to give Cleveland a chance to have an onside kick, get the ball back again, and tie this game up.
Don't forget, coming up next, except for those of you folks here in Milwaukee, it's the Dolphins, Dan Marino and company, versus Joe Montana and the San Francisco 49ers. Down, less than 1. Clock running, 1 minute 34 to play. That's Walker. Oh, is he hammered? He holds on. George Cumbie, well, he hit Walker almost as soon as the ball got there, and the clock stops now. The Browns will use their first time out. They will have 2 remaining. Sipe will go to the far sideline.
This is a clutch 3rd down catch here. They needed to pick this up. It gives them a chance. Walker makes a great grab. Good defense by Cumbie. gives them a chance to regroup, call a timeout, get a couple of plays in their mind, and try and put this ball across the goal line. You know, Phil, what's interesting is two great kickers have not played a role in this game at all yet today, and that's Jan Stenerud from Green Bay and Matt Barr from Cleveland. Two excellent kickers who have not, I don't think, even attempted a field goal yet today.
Well, there has been absolutely no chance for the Green Bay Packers. Every time they have gotten close to the end zone, they have stuck it in.
Yeah, we did get the one attempt by Matt Barr, and they tried to make him a receiver, and I think he would rather stay in the role of a kicker.
He really never ever was able to make a pass at the ball because Paul McDonald could not handle the poor snap. I want to thank our spotters here at Milwaukee's County Stadium, Joe Mack, Bill Jennings, our statsman Bob Catalano for a job well done. Down in the truck, our producer David Stern, our director Lenny Stucker. Gentlemen, we thank you for an outstanding job here at Milwaukee's County Stadium. First and 10. Sight pumps once, goes over the middle for Walker. Touchdown, Brown. Now this could turn into a ball game yet. A minute 25 to play. Cleveland has struck twice here in the fourth period.
The key to this is the pump fake. You're going to see it right here. It throws Tim Lewis on the outside. Mike Whitwell hung out on the pump fake. They were able to get the score in. That is so important for a quarterback to look off his receivers like Brian Sipe did there.
Matt Barr's point after is perfect. And the Cleveland Browns, who, as I said just a moment ago, have been involved in 66 games. In their last 66 games, 41 have been decided in the last 2 minutes.
Looks like this one may be also, Bill.
The situation, a minute 25 remaining. The Packers up by a touchdown. The Browns have struck for the last 2 TDs. And there's that graphic I spoke of just a moment ago. Is that incredible? 26 and 15 in games that have been decided in the last 2 minutes. I'll tell you, that has to make Art Modell, Cleveland Browns owner, tell you what, that'd have to make life awful tough. I don't know how he sits through those kind of finishes.
It does make it a bit miserable. It'd be nice to be able to come to a game, have a hot dog and a beer, and watch your team have a comfortable time with their opponent.
Now, Bob, is it too early for an onside kick? As you look at Matt Barr.
You know, Green Bay has their onside kick return team in. They're expecting Cleveland to do that. They put all their supposedly good-handed, sure-handed people up in the front 2 lines here. And I would expect Cleveland to try it.
It's loose. And the Packers have recovered. That ball was loose, and there were nothing but orange pants all around it. I don't know how Green Bay fell on the loose ball, but Mark Murphy somehow came up with it.
Definitely had their shot here, Phil. Matt Barr, a lot like his brother for the Raiders, Chris Barr, very effective, these soccer-style kickers, at kicking this onside kick. It's a tough ball to handle. You try and get on it and get a hold of it. The ball was loose. It was bouncing around, and boy, Cleveland had a tremendous opportunity there to grab a hold of the ball.
Now, what you've accomplished is letting Green Bay open up its offense right now. You give them the ball across the midfield stripe. The pitch is to Gary Ellis. He is inside the 35 and out of bounds at the 41 to stop the clock. It was something Ellis did not want to do. Tom Cousineau takes him out.
That's a good point. That is something that they're telling each other in the huddle out there is, one, hold on to the ball regardless. Give up. Don't try to get those extra yards. Don't try to do that individual effort you've been doing all game. Protect the ball and stay in bounds. Keep that clock running.
A minute 17 seconds to play. The Browns have run up a total of 385 yards to Green Bay's 335. But find themselves on the short end of a 28-21 count. Huckleby in motion. Clark down to the 28-yard line. A minute 10, and you can hear the Cleveland coaches screaming for a timeout. Now we've got a finish here at County Stadium in Milwaukee. And when it is complete, we will take you via the magic of television to Candlestick Park in San Francisco, where the 49ers are poised to take on the Miami Dolphins. That game already underway, incidentally. There is no score between Miami and San Francisco. Well, if you're Bart Starr, what are you telling your quarterback here, Bob? You've got a 7-point lead in a minute, 10 seconds to play, and you own the football.
Probably telling him to sit on it and let's get back to Green Bay. It's a big victory for Bart Starr and the Packers today. It gives them an outside shot at getting into the playoffs this year. And most importantly, it gives them 2 weeks in a row of victories back-to-back where they can start maybe building. It's a feeling among some of the team members there that they may be on the right track. They felt that way so many times, and then they've gone down the downside of that roller coaster. But this is one step in the right direction for Green Bay today.
There you look at Dickey's numbers, 228 yards, 4 touchdowns. Dickey on second down now and 4. Ellis. The extra effort moves him close to the 25. He'll be shy of the first down, and again the Browns want a timeout, and that will be their last timeout. Now, should the Packers hold on and win this game, of course, they would have a very real shot at the playoff, because the Vikings, having lost today, would only be 1 game out in front of the Packers, and those 2 teams, the Vikes and the Pack, meet a week from today at Lambeau Field. The executive producer of NBC Sports is Michael Wiseman. The coordinating producer of NFL football is Ted Nathanson. The telecast of today's game has been produced by David Stern, directed by Lenny Stucker, technical director Steve Semino, associate director David Hoffman. Now stay tuned. As we told you, when this game is complete, it's the Dolphins and the 49ers. Now you look back at the end of the first half, Bob Chandler, when the Browns had that golden opportunity to put some points on the board. The bad snap didn't come out of it with even 3 points. Yeah, really, they should have gone in for the touchdown.
You're right. It should have been 7 points, and they didn't even end up with 3. And that's a real damaging thing mentally to a team going in at halftime. Had they been able to score, it could have changed the whole complexion of this ball game by having that momentum start the second half with them rather than against them.
There's Ellis again. And he goes on for the first down. Touchdown! Has been driven into the heart of the Cleveland Browns with 56 seconds to play. Jan Stenerud has tacked on his 5th point after today, and the Packers have sealed it 35-21 over the Cleveland Browns.
Bill, in defensive Cleveland here, they're doing a lot of arm tackling. They're trying to go for the ball. They're trying to cause a turnover. It's not the same kind of tough, aggressive tackling they were doing in the early stages of the ball game.
Now, coming into this ball game, Bob, Gary Ellis had rushed for an average of almost 5 yards a carry, so it's no fluke that he has gotten the job done today. Ellis, 17 carries, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 running, and 1 receiving.
Bay, always happy with their offense, understandably, has to be picked up a little bit today by the performance of their defense. Although Cleveland has amassed a lot of yards, they still have come up with some very timely turnovers, and they've been able to keep them out of the end zone enough, something that they haven't done throughout the first half of the season.
An interesting statistic on the Green Bay Packers: when they have played before their hometown fans, Bob, they have averaged a little over 30 points a game. But yet when the same ball club takes to the road, they average just a little over 17 points a game. Now there's the situation. Minnesota, Green Bay separated by a single game, and they will meet a week from today, Lambeau Field in Green Bay, and they will pack that stadium to the rafters. Dino Hall at the 6-yard line. And he's out of bounds at the 31. The clock stops with 52 seconds to play. Coming up next, the Dolphins and the 49ers, and we have a score from Candlestick Park in San Francisco. Dan Marino and the Dolphins have fallen behind Montana's 49ers 7-0. And that's a big game. New Orleans winning today. If San Francisco should lose to the Dolphins, there would be a tie for the top spot in the NFC West. For the surprising Saints. First and 10 from the 32, Brian Sipe. Bobby Jones had it, and Mark Murphy knocked it away. Now, we were talking to Larry Weaver, the Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator, before this game about what it does to him putting together a game plan knowing he doesn't have the burner to get it done like he had at San Diego when he was the offensive coordinator of Don Coryell's Chargers. And he says, quite frankly, it allows the defense to come up and squeeze you like an accordion. They don't have to respect your deep game. Sipe with time, tries to go deep. Mark Murphy on the spot again, should have had it and coughed it up.
Well, without that deep threat, Bill, you know, fear is such an important ingredient, such an important factor in the National Football League today. And the guy, more so than any other guy on a team, that can put fear into a defense is what you would call that X-in or that split in, that wide out that can run a 9.5, 9.6 or faster 100-yard dash and can really stretch out that defense. And when you don't have it, it changes not only your offensive game plan, but the way a defense prepares for you and how they try and stop you.
Third down and 10. Sipe to put it up once more. There's Jones. He's got it, a first down, and tackled at the 37-yard line. 30 seconds to play. Clock continues to run. The Browns cannot stop it.
We're watching Cleveland here. They're not going to give up. They've come from behind too many times, although it's unlikely with only 17 seconds left. As far as they're concerned, they're still in this ballgame.
And the Browns, after a wild and woolly tumble, have recovered the loose ball. And that'll be the last play in this ball game. And I suppose for the Browns, it is fitting that the game come to a close on that kind of a play. The Cleveland Browns losing it to the Green Bay Packers 35-21.